Call the meeting to order at 5:31. We have a couple of announcements before we get started. The first is, I just wanted to comment on the Memorial Day Parade. As you all know, it ended up being canceled. I want to thank especially the employees that prepared to show up, and some did show up, residents who were going to be bystanders, as well as parade participants, the food mart, the fire company, and Rogers funeral home. They brought dozens of roses to hand out, and then also the veterans that were participating. So I want to acknowledge everybody's input and interest, and apologize that we ended up canceling. I think probably next year what we should do is have some kind of formal process and decide the night before if there's any chance of weather impacting. You know, we just weren't prepared to communicate with everybody when we had email addresses and no phone numbers. So I think next year we'll just come up with our rain date procedure, and that'll think it's better. The second announcement is that we have a documentary film in service of George Tudor. This was produced by Timothy Friend, who's a West Newbury native, using PEG funds. Angus, do you want to provide an overview of the documentary?
Yeah, this actually arose from the Stories of Service film that was aired last November at the library, and Timothy had approached Rebecca and me a short time after that he'd been approached by the Tudor family with an interest in doing this, and so he put together a brief proposal. We approved it, and he did this entirely independently. He's, as you know, a very talented filmmaker, and so yeah, we're very pleased to be able to support that kind of work. And I think if there's people watching that have ideas for programming that you'd like to see produced for local cable, that's what the fund is there for. And we're very fortunate to have both Adam, who is our kind of mainstay on keeping all of our meetings recorded. He records public events and all kinds of, and he's done some specialized programming as well. And now Timothy is also a terrific resource. He's got tremendous talent and availability. So basically, if someone comes forward with a concept, they just need to work up a scope and budget, and we approve that, and then away they go. So I saw in the film that he had kind of credited me and Rebecca. I shouldn't. Rebecca she's always helpful. I really didn't have anything to do with it. So, but it's all Timothy. He did a wonderful job with that, and we're very happy to be able to share that in the community.
Very good. The Board of Water Commissioners is holding a public hearing regarding water rates. That's going to be on Monday, June 15th at 6 p.m. I assume that's in the annex, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. And then, as always, a call for volunteers. There's a complete list of current openings on the volunteer tab on the town webpage. Item A, public comment. We have one planned. Is there anybody here that wishes to make a public comment that did not reach out? Okay. So the public comment we have planned is an introduction of Bob Faulkner, who was the parade and marshal for Memorial Day, and Tony Sutton prepared to stand. I think he's going to leave.
Well, I have to start. I was asked by Ron Ross to give this one. So this was written by Bob to Ron, and then Ron sent it to me. So these are Bob's words. I'm Tony Sutton, 30-year West Newbury resident, and also a Marine Corps veteran. These are Bob's words. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends of West Newbury, our veterans and Gold Star families. It is an honor and privilege to be here today, humbled to recognize our fallen heroes, their families, and our Grand Marshal for the West Newbury Memorial Day Parade, U.S. Navy veteran Petty Officer 3rd Class Bob Faulkner. Petty Officer Faulkner served on the amphibious command ship, the USS Taconic, AGC-17, which from 1958 to 1960 was deployed to the Mediterranean Sea and served as the command ship for Task Force 61, when the U.S. military was heavily engaged in Lebanon, ultimately culminating in Operation Blue Bat. And as a side note in irony, I was in Lebanon 25 years after Bob as a Marine in 1983. This intervention, prompted by the Lebanon crisis, involved 14,000 U.S. troops, Marines, and sailors, of which one of them was our Grand Marshal Bob. He served as a gunner, assistant gunner, tasked with securing critical areas at both Beirut Airport and its harbor, stabilized the Lebanese president and his government against an internal uprising and other regional pressures. Operation Blue Bat was successful in its objective of stabilizing the region, and American forces withdrew after aiding in the transition to a new government. To veteran Bob Faulkner, Memorial Day symbolizes and allows us to honor our fallen, those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives for this country and their way of life. Also, and equally as important, as we remember the families, friends, and loved ones left behind by this sacrifice, they themselves mourn and live the loss of their loved ones. To the families, friends, and loved ones of these fallen heroes, every day it is Memorial Day. Freedom comes with this huge sacrifice, and we must never forget. As a young man and a high school senior, our Grand Marshal, Navy Petty Officer, 3rd class, decided to enlist in the Navy and serve his country. It was the pride, tradition, and honor to don the uniform and serve his country. Upon returning from his 2-year Mediterranean deployment, Bob wanted to serve his community and honor those who were not as fortunate as he to return home. Born in Haverhill and then making West Newbury his family home, Petty Officer 3rd Class Bob Faulkner made an honorable life with his wife of 63 years and 3 children. He took his naval training and experience, went to work at Western Electric for 25 years, supporting the military defense industry, and then served the community as a mortgage loan officer and real estate entrepreneur. Serving as a community leader, Petty Officer 3rd Class Bob Faulkner dedicated his heart and soul as a Mason, rising to the highest position as Master Past Master, providing substantial charitable contributions to help the community. He was ceremonially awarded the 50-year service, a prestigious Veterans Medal, highlighting a Mason's lifelong commitment and charitable community contributions. He did all this with a smile and love for his country, family, and community. Please join me in thanking today's Memorial Day Grand Marshal, Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class Bob Faulkner, for his dedication and selfless service to our country and community. Thank you, Bob. In closing, thank you for joining us today to commemorate Memorial Day. Day to remember those who sacrificed their lives serving their country and the sacrifice of their families, friends, and loved ones. Today's event would not be possible without the great support of this community. A special thank you to our town manager, Annie Jennings, executive assistant, Rebecca Ambra, our behind-the-scenes DPW team, Brian Richard, Butch Hills, Chris Rao, Chris Casares, and Brandon Crocker, our police and fire chief, Michael Dwyer, Sergeant Johnson, Sergeant Forney, Sergeant Paratel, and our incredibly brave Department of Police officers. Our fire department deputy chief, Dave Evans, assistant chief, Ben Janelle, and the entire brave firefighting department. And on behalf of the Eastern Essex District Department of Veteran Services, we would like to thank our board members, Wendy Reed, Barry Fogel, Chris Watt, for approving the necessary funding and resources to allow us to support and serve the veterans and their families of this great community. Thanks to the Council on Aging, the Sage Center, and recently retired Christine Marshall, who is still donating her time by providing the Grand Marshal transportation. Our veterans and their families will miss her. Thanks to Jan Vincent, who hosts and prepares quarterly breakfast for our veterans and their families, so they can receive the Veteran Affairs updates and support from our Veteran Service Officer, Steve Bowen. And lastly, you cannot have a parade without a supporting West Newbury community. Please join me in a round of applause. Thank you all again for attending West Newbury's Memorial Day sermon.
We like to photo with you and Bob and Tommy.
But I just want to say one thing.
Please speak in the mic.
Oh. I just want to say one thing. Bob got a ride to the parade in a 1935 green truck. This truck was adorned with pitches on both sides of Bob's ship, and it was covered with bunting. Bob did an excellent job, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. I didn't even get a picture of the two of you.
This is fun. This is Bob's day, not mine.
Whoever you like in your photo.
I'm gonna put a podium right here for another one.
So, I'm not using.
We'll put it front page in the annual report.
The what?
The annual report. Front page.
Oh.
That's fine.
1, 2, 3.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob and Diane and all your friends here supporting.
Thank you for that.
We're lucky people.
We are.
All right.
Thank you very much. You all appreciate the presentation here. Thanks for the thanks, sure.
Thank you.
Right. Oh. Move on to item B, town manager updates.
All right, first item is probably the forest kept secret from Newbury, but I have made it official. I have submitted my letter of resignation. I had previously signed a contract for a new job, so I think that was an important conclusion. My last day will be July 31st. I'll be taking 1 week off in July, and I'm taking most of next week off. I'll take a day or two here and there, but basically, as you know from the last meeting, we've got a really good transition plan. And that's been a very helpful resource for me, core staff, to make sure that everything that can be completed prior to the end of July is completed, and everything that can't be is left in a very clear status. So it'll be good for current staff and for the new interim person to pick up once they start. So in the meantime, we did, thanks to the support of the select board and the finance committee, with the approval of the fund transfer, we did sign a contract with Community Paradigm for the town manager search process. And we are aware that they are working to line up a couple of options for interim town managers. So as soon as they have something to bring to the board, they will. So that was the first item here, updates.
Yeah. I mean, the door should be open.
Good evening.
Oh, are we past that item?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did, I
Oh,
apologize.
sorry, okay.
Yeah, I apologize, man. So I'm looking in the, projected timeline that they had, and it was week 1. Do you know, like, where are they, what week are they in, and where is this sort of?
They haven't started this component yet,
Oh,
they're
did-
still doing the organizational assessment. So they
Got it.
have developed the resident survey, which it kind of applies to both, and that's gonna be out next Monday.
Got it, so once this, we'll know when they, sort of week 1 starts on this.
I would say week 1 is next week.
Got
next
it.
Monday.
The other thing I had was, thank you for updating you mentioned that you had updated your sort of item list and.
Yes, yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for doing that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's very
Very
helpful.
With priorities and the hours.
Yeah.
Just wanted to comment on it.
Good, yeah. Yeah, that helps us stay focused.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to be providing a brief update on the board and committee reappointment process that we have for June. I've been working with the vendor on the new database and I've got more comfortable with that. At this time, approximately 46 committee seats are up for reappointment in this June. Last Friday, I sent 3 letters around to all of the individuals whose terms are expiring, by mail and by email. I'm asking to indicate whether or not they will seek a reappointment. As of tonight, I've received 13 responses back, including 2 individuals stating they will not be seeking reappointment. What our hope is to divide the appointments by committee into the 2 different nights. I kind of done a draft of what that would look like based on some of the committees having a lot of the same people, might make sense to have them one night. So when I get more forms back, I will keep you apprised. We have a shared folder on the drive with all the forms, spreadsheet, that.
Do you need anything from us?
No.
I don't believe so. We are gonna have the board of registrars appointments that are coming up soon. As well, those are a little bit different. So Lisa Mingo is one of our registrars. She was appointed last year to fill someone else's term, and that was just for 1 year to keep the term staggered. So her term is up for reappointment right now, but due to the Mass General Law, we had to solicit names from Republican and Democrat town committee. And so we have to follow that process. We also had another member, Peg Duchemin, who resigned from the board, so we needed to fill that as well. So there are 2 vacancies on the board of registrars. I've prepared a memo for the June 11th meeting that outlines all of that, with the letters to the chairs, their responses. Lisa Mingo would like to continue in her position. She was recommended. I would recommend that too. And then we have, a few other people vying, 3 other people for that other spot, so.
Questions from you, Rob?
Just a quick question. So I think it's great that, this year we're doing a little different. I want to commend, Amanda and also Wendy for providing the direction on that. But in the past, the reappointments have often been, it's been just simply an email or even verbal, oh, I want reappointment this year. There's a simple form, really simple, just check the box, which I think is great for record keeping. And I know the board's interest in getting reappointment applicants coming before the board. In the event that there's anyone who wants reappointment that simply isn't available for either of the June meetings, is that disqualifying, or should we tell them just to state their interest and the board will take that up?
Yeah, I think it's the actually send the form in, consider it, take a look, they've already been on it, right?
Mhm.
Just when we do it, the process is kind of depends on, like, can we get a copy of the charge of the committees? I wanna make sure that the people on these committees are agreeing to follow these charges of the committees. That's been a problem this past year or two. Maybe not for this year to fully do it, but
Yeah,
they should acknowledge what the charge of the committee is.
well, I think if we were gonna do that, we should review the charges and make sure they're in alignment with what our vision is.
It's better than not having any charge and
Yeah.
just ignoring it, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying, so.
Yeah,
A long-term process, and it's not gonna happen now, but I think they should at least be cognizant that most of these committees do have a charge. We're gonna have some obligation, at least to engage with that.
yeah, I think Amanda's drafted a committee handbook, and the charges are in there, and so I think that'll be the document to start discussing, as well as the organizational assessment. And that's
So that already exists?
It's in draft form.
Yeah.
So my committee handbook right now does not have the charges. It's more of a document on the town and the whole appointment process and reappointment process and rules to follow and the meeting law and the structure of how that works in town. I know there is other documents
Yeah.
that have been created in the past
Yeah.
that can get worked in. I know some committees have that. Well, that would be easy to do in conjunction with the board assessment. I can
I think that would
work on that with the assistant when she comes, yeah.
And I did, like, when I started, I put together my own kind of just record of, all the committees and their composition and then when, 3 or 4 years ago, I think when Jim started, I had asked him, I had assigned him kind of all the information I had, because I was looking at all the charges in one 3-ring binder. So I do have a 3-ring binder. Some of the charges are by bylaw, some of them are board votes, some of them are by Mass General Law, you know, we
That
have.
was my next question.
Yeah, we have certain, you know, planning board, historical commission, they exist under Mass General Law, so there are a few that don't have any charges, so, but I do have that all in a 3-ring binder. It's not the most elegant thing, but it's definitely it's got a lot of raw material. And we did make an effort to put that into a cohesive, I think when you were doing the board, we put that kind of all into one place, so. There's a good start on that, but it's some of the charges are, you know, old. And even some of the bylaw charges are not necessarily consistent with what, you know, what's needed or wanted at this time, but obviously that's what's followed, as long as it's in a bylaw, that is. The official charge, but to get that more standardized and better understood more broadly, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think the organizational assessment most likely will combine or eliminate, suggest that, so maybe after that's done is a good time to work that into.
Yes, and so in the absence of having that nailed down now, your question was if they can't make either of those meetings, is it disqualified?
Right.
I would say, I don't think so, but I think somehow we should communicate that it is important that they try to make one of the two and come in and. we can at least-
That's my fear. If we say it's not essential, then we'll get, less than 50% attendance.
I did alert all of the reappointees, that they will be taking up the reappointments during their June meeting, and you will be contacted prior to the meeting to confirm the reappointment, your details, and then when people were sending them to me, I would respond and let them know that I would let them know the date of the meeting at which the reappointment will be taken up as, and the board is requesting that people seeking reappointment come before to answer any questions. Haven't gotten any left.
Wendy, are you thinking that they don't make it, it should be disqualified?
No,
No.
I think the way you phrased it is good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't offer that. You don't have to come. Yeah.
And if they
That's
come to the meeting, we ask them if they can go to the other one.
Yeah, or Zoom is an option.
Zoom, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel different, I don't think the meeting's critical, they put it in the form and they've already been doing it.
But how are we gonna have a conversation about, are they following? the-
Okay, I thought we were postponing until after the August test.
Well, I think we have talked about stressing that some of these committees are serving at the board's, direction. So that needs to be. I thought that's what you were.
That's fine, I was, but then I was hearing it's being delayed, that's fine.
So I think the distinction is the charges and bylaws from 1990 are not necessarily what the board's priorities are today. So I would focus on what the board is looking for and let the charges get resolved.
And if I just, there are 40 something spots, that's what we're talking about?
46.
Yeah. That's. So 20 something people perhaps, but we don't want to have 40 people in there, one meeting, 6 at the other. How can we organize
So
that?
she's gonna do it by committee. If we have 6
Oh.
members of the committee here, we don't need to. We just
Yeah.
want to talk to them as a committee.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed. So are you gonna identify the date that you hope that committee comes?
Yes,
Yes,
so
okay.
there are also a lot of repeat reappointees, so we have at least 7 or so people that are on 2 committees. So that's why the way I have kind of broken it up before. We had energy and environmental. Mill pond, open space, recommit, there were a handful of people that were all on some of those things, so it would.
So you'll try to shoot them into one or the other of the 2 meetings in June.
I had, emailed Angus and Rebecca the other day and just let them know, of my process that I'm getting all the slips in, I'm putting them there, made a spreadsheet with everybody that's up the reappointment.
Yeah.
And I was gonna make 2 additional tabs with a draft of what I would suggest, and then as they come in, it would be really up to who's sending them back. And the local board.
And we need to see them at a formal meeting to do this to you, as opposed to some other
It
time.
has to be voted on.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ben. Right.
Next item, I think we had what I think was a very positive meeting of the Whittier Regional Committee meeting last Wednesday. Chris and I were there. I won't go into much detail, but other than to say that at the prior meeting in April, there was some clear direction to incorporate Northern Essex into the draft regional agreement. So we had done a fair amount of work on that. Basically came to the conclusion that there may be ways to do that, but that the main, if that ends up being the preferred alternative that comes out of the feasibility study process, that a lease and MOUs would really be the instrument documenting that relationship between the 2 institutions. And so going into the meeting last week, I was really, that was kind of what we had arrived at after a lot of thought, and it seemed like everybody agreed with that. So it was very good, because going into the meeting, I didn't know how the meeting would go. And I thought there might be some people who say, it's gotta be this way, and it didn't really make sense, because if it ended up being at the Northern Essex site, Northern Essex is not gonna be part of the school committee. They're not gonna be part of, for instance, approving the school budget. So it was a very positive meeting. I think it went very well, and I think the committee is on track with a very clear plan to basically wrap up its work over the course of the next 2 months, which is gonna result in basically a report to the school committee, which is the appointing authority, with a draft regional agreement And in a couple of sections, it would have kind of option A, option B, depending on if it's more domestics or not, but. So we have the final 3 meetings of that committee are on the calendar, 2 in June, 1 in July, and that will wrap up, that committee, and I think. Put things back in the Whittier School Committee's support, which ultimately is gonna be up to that, so. Chris, and you would add to that?
No, again, without Northern Essex in the deal, I don't think it's gonna fly, so.
Yeah, I think that is, politically, that's the path everyone wants to go, but obviously, Whittier's got a plan for every eventuality and if they remain at the current location, any capital work would be under the current agreement. So it's, there's no easy path, but I think it was a positive meeting, and I think we had just about it was a full house, which was really good. So, next item,
I'm sorry,
uh,
so on the little timeline, when's the school committee vote to fund the feasibility study? Has that happened or is that?
So on June 24th, MSBA has a meeting to determine whether they are approving the project going into the feasibility stage. There's every expectation that will happen, but there's a bunch of paperwork that the district's been doing over the last year on enrollment, on composition of classes.
So that's yet to happen.
That's yet to happen,
That
so,
was my
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Thanks.
But the intention is they're going forward, that they,
Oh, yeah.
funding is already.
Yeah, the funding's already appropriated, yeah, there's work underway, I'm told there's work underway on the scope for the feasibility study, but that wouldn't begin until MSBA allows them to move to
Yeah.
that stage.
Thanks.
The GAR library, as you know, a lot of work went into that RFQ, and that was funded at the fall town meeting. The town got a number of what looked to be really quality proposals, so they had a series of interviews earlier this week. I did not attend those, but Wendy did, and there's an advisory working group that's advising the procurement officer on that process. So not having been there, I don't know exactly where it stands, but I think it's fair to say they're closing in on selecting a vendor, at which point they negotiate a fee and contract. And I think everything's proceeding according to the schedule. So,
Yeah, we did select, there was a clear winner out of
Great.
4, yeah.
Good.
So we referred that to Caitlin as the chief procurement officer, and she's gonna contact them and start negotiation.
Great. So I think that's a really exciting initiative. On the Route 113, Butch and Caitlin and I had a good meeting with TEC earlier today, and we've got another one in 2 weeks, just to gear up for the June 23rd workshop. We've been getting a lot of good input on both the town center, primarily in the town center, but also in the library town hall crossing. So I think we're gonna be well on track for getting the deliverables done for the town center work by the end of June. That was the term of the earmark that funded that work, is it had to be complete by the end of this fiscal year. The work on the library town hall crossing, you have a whole other year to do. So we're kind of front loading the work on the town center, so to leave as much billable time with TEC for the future, which you could pick up in the fall or whenever it kind of fits in with your schedule. But we'll leave that in a good place by the end of June, so it's kind of a good stopping point.
And what is it that has to happen on the town center by the end of June? What's the deliverable?
The deliverable is one, or what I think is more likely, a couple of options on conceptual plans.
That's as far as it
That's
has.
over, yeah, they did survey, they did
Yeah.
ground survey, that was a deliverable that was completed last summer. So that's kind of a tangible thing. The other is a concept plan. If we felt like there was a consensus plan, that would be one thing, but I don't think there's gonna be. I think there's a lot of different ideas and good ideas, so I think that the goal is to have a couple of different options for people to kick the tires, say what do they like, what do they not like.
With the Maple Street business going on there.
Yeah, and then coming out of that, TEC would prepare, or will prepare a memo, basically summarizing the process and what the options are, and then that'll be kind of before the board. There's one thing I was clear in the meeting today, and I should say tonight as well. We don't want people in the community to have the expectation that this is going to lead like immediately to anything next. This was kind of found money that came from a budget earmark from the state. It's not money that was appropriated by the town. And there is no other funding appropriated, so we'll get to like a point. And then at some future time, when it fits in with the board's priorities and, you know, the staffing bandwidth and so forth, at some future point, you can pick that up and carry it forward. You know, within available resources. So, but it'll bring you to a logical kind of point where there will be something tangible people can look at and respond to and say what they like and don't like.
I'm a little bit concerned that expectations are that it's more than what it is. And I don't know how to manage that other than, you know, maybe say it at the workshop or.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be clear, but you know, like in the slides on May 7th, one of the very first slides is that kind of long process for a state road.
Yeah.
With the many steps that takes years at best. And that's if you have consensus on what you want and funding to do it. It will still take years. We're at a much earlier point where it's just conceptual planning. So we put that in the beginning of every slide to show this is we're at the very beginning. So, you know, we do try to manage expectations, but yeah, I think there's a natural assumption people have that it leads immediately to something next, and that's not how it works on a state road. And again, this has been a kind of episodic because it's been based on resources as available, and for the most part, the Route 113 initiative, going back to the start, has been funded with state earmarks. So the money just kind of, we learn about it typically late spring, early summer. And, you know, so it's not like an appropriation where we're kind of controlling the timeline. And whatever the term of the earmark, if it's gotta be done by X date, you know, if we want to accept the money, we gotta kind of do what the conditions are.
I've got a concern too. I think the sort of what Wendy was saying, the expectation, but we saw a bunch of emails pinging around a couple of weeks ago. The people on Maple Street think that, I mean, this is a 113 corridor study.
It is.
And they're looking at sidewalks down Maple Street.
Right.
That's not a bad thing, but I don't think the study's encompassing that level of detail.
No, it's not. It's really focused on where Maple Street intersects with 113.
Right, so
I think that's an important point for the presentation.
I don't want them to get expectations of.
Yeah, well, I think
that
there are.
board is right.
One thing, I did have a conversation with Kevin, TDC, I can't make the next one, but we were talking about how far each of the remaining intersections on 113 would need to advance for Mass DOT to get excited about maybe doing something themselves. And so who would keep track? Would TDC sort of prompt us on, boy, if you know, you wanted to appropriate some money at town meeting to do this other intersection or other area and bring it to this level and to lead us to the point where we put something in front of District 4 and they jump on it.
Yeah. I mean, the general rule of thumb is in order for a project on a state road to be competitive for funding through the TIP, the Regional Transportation Program, it's gotta be a 25% design. If you're at a concept, that's not enough, you know, because until you're at 25% design, you really don't have even really ballpark cost estimates. You don't have survey. So that's part of why we've included survey in these scopes, because that's just a fundamental thing that just kind of checks that box so it's there when you need it. So the 25% is an important threshold. With that said, the way the board has approached the corridor, one aspect of it anyway is there were two so-called PNFs or project notification forms that were submitted to Mass DOT about 15 months ago that board had reviewed and voted to authorize to submit. Those project notification forms are the first official notice of the town to Mass DOT that these are projects that we want you to have on your list. So, and they did that for basically looking at this as a corridor-wide project rather than a one-off, like this crosswalk, like to bash them. And so they were organized, basically the crossings were in one PNF and the sidewalks were in the other PNF. what's a little bit different about this initiative is because the town's been the prime mover on this, but the town's not offering to build these improvements. The town's trying to prime the pump to get them to a point where DOT can take it on because it is their road that they own. So it's a matter of kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease or getting it to a certain level where it becomes easier for them to pick it up and carry it. Because they're not gonna start,
Sure.
until there's some local consensus, they're not gonna spend their limited resources coming in to fix something when they've got a lot of other
Yeah, you
projects.
answered my question with that 25% design, so I, coming to this now, I think that's an important thing for us to keep our eye on, is what can we do to push those all as a batch to that point, and then, and Kevin. I thought was sort of understanding what I was inquiring about, and he may be able to guide us into how to,
Yeah.
where we want to put our efforts.
Yeah, I think we also have to look at that in context of all the other big projects that we have right now.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for instance, like, I mean, a choice was made to kind of batch these, for presentation to the state. And personally, I think that was the right choice, but you could handle it a different way. If you wanted to go all in on like one intersection, put all your resources toward that. But there's been a conscious effort to get multiple intersections kind of incrementally improved. Because there's not, when we started this, what, 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago. It's not like there's one intersection that rises above. There's a lot of different nodes. Many of which would benefit from attention. So there's been an effort to kind of get them all to some level of readiness.
But we did take Page School Crossing out of sequence, right?
Correct.
Separate.
Yeah, yep,
Because we funded it, we weren't.
I know, but we could do that any other, we, at a certain point, we get there, say, it's advantageous then.
right. So, yeah,
Thank
good. Let's see, this next item, Justin Bartholomew had reached out a week or so ago, just giving us a heads up about this program, so Caitlin Barker and I sat in on it. You know, it's very technical, you're a ways away from this, but the time will come, assuming the page SOI is accepted in the program, where you'll be looking at this very closely. So I figured I'd share the slides, there's a lot of good information in there, there's pros and cons with all of this stuff. But it's a program that they're, you know, there's incentives that, you know, the state would like communities to think about.
So I kind of cringe at that one because probably 10, 12 years ago, that green program was what funded the widows of Page.
Mhm.
Then, and,
Yeah,
so, well, you've got to be careful, they control who the vendors are, what you have to do.
yeah,
So just because, again, it's free money doesn't mean it's the right thing to do at that time.
absolutely.
Beware.
Yeah. Next item, this has been another process of kind of incremental progress on getting the stormwater fully integrated and the stormwater bylaw fully consistent with the planning board regs. So the planning board held a public hearing a couple of weeks ago, voted to approve some regulation amendments, so those are now in effect. And we expect the next step would be for them to look at their subdivision regs and integrate the stormwater. Just even by cross-reference into that, but that's the work for FY 26 is complete, and this was kind of the final work product for that stage of the work.
A question, and I'm not totally familiar with this bylaw, but they struck the definition of stormwater authority as being the planning board or its authorized agent. There are many communities that I've been working where, depending if there's a Concom filing for a project, the planning board often is the primary authority, can defer the assignment of the stormwater, but make it go with the Concom review. What was the rationale for striking that? Do you know?
It's in the bylaw,
That it,
so there wasn't really a need to have it in both.
and does it say or its authorized agent in the bylaw?
Yep, yeah,
So
so
does that include assigning it to the Concom?
it could,
in that concept?
yeah, the vote that was taken a couple of years ago where the planning board assigned it to Board of Health is something the planning board could modify or rescind at any time.
Got it.
The bylaw specifies it's the planning board or their designee.
And
So-
could that be for individual projects, or is that just a blanket?
I think it's however they would want to do it. I think they would have discretion. I know in Marshfield, we looked at it. That's when a lot of these regs were first coming online in the early 2000s. we said if there's a project that's already before the Concom, because it's jurisdictional, it made sense for
Yeah,
for them to also look at stormwater. When we got started, all of this, it was probably my first year, we were in this MS4 permit. At that time, we had a part-time agent with no admin support, there were a lot of factors, including bandwidth, that were taken into account in terms of where to assign this responsibility. But a lot has changed in terms of organizational structure since then, so I think that would warrant.
as long as it's feasible, that's great.
Mhm.
It makes
I
sense.
think that makes sense, so you're not duplicating efforts.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it's
does.
the same thing.
It makes a lot of sense.
Good, thanks.
There are a few active insurance claims, so just briefly, we had a police cruiser that was totaled some time ago. We have received insurance payment of just over $57,000. We're working with the vendor to order the replacement cruiser. That'll be outfitted using the equipment from the cruiser that was damaged.
And excuse me, is that one of the hybrids or is that?
Uh,
Oh, we got lucky.
I don't think so.
I don't think they
recall.
were driving last week, they were sitting in the parking lot, that's the problem.
I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. The paid school gym flooring, the insurance company received the repair quote from the vendor, and they're awaiting language in the vendor's contract before authorizing the work to proceed. So that's on track. It's just, it takes a while dealing with insurance, but it's on track. And then we did unfortunately sustain some damage to the DPW electric truck. So we filed a claim on that. We got an appraisal for about just short of $12,000, and we have a $1,000 deductible, so we did go forward with the claim there. And that was from striking a gate in the parking lot behind the town office building. So we're coordinating the repairs and have a repair time of 22 days. So I definitely want to specifically commend Rebecca in my office. The longer she's been in this position, she's taken on more and more and more of this. You know, where I used to be kind of doing all this, she's now really doing all this, which is a huge help, and she deserves a lot of credit for that, because it's significant work.
Can I ask about the page floor?
Yeah.
What's the magnitude of damages, is it a refinish, replacement?
Replacement. Yeah, well, because once you're into insurance, you know,
Why not? But
Yeah.
we have no idea really what the magnitude.
Right.
is of one.
yeah,
So
so,
there's some of them, hopefully.
oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. All right, and then we did execute the solid waste contract. That was in coordination with town council, and that went through a lot of sets of eyes before it got the final sign off. So that is a 5-year contract, starting at 4/27.
Question,
Yeah,
do they operate, the Newbury recycling facility, transfer station, or is that only the town? Are they involved with that?
Food day.
Gino?
Mellow?
I don't think so.
No.
Excuse me, having lived in Newbury, I can say Mellow runs the transfer station.
The reason I ask is that for us, as West Newbury residents, to dispose of items that don't go to our recycling facility, you gotta go over to Newbury and pay. And I don't know if that, you get charged the same fee that people in Newbury do or not, I mean, but I hope
You
folks,
could just go to pipe state.
no, this is like for metal and other things. Well, no, Pipe State's got,
Another thing you don't know, and I learned this when we read the contract, they have bulk pickup, you can call them up and they'll pick up on the street, but so many times a year, they don't have to do that.
no, I don't think everything that, like, if you're getting rid of an old, well, shop vac, they don't take that at Pipe State.
There's a metal dumpster there, anything that has metal, this can be much of that.
Is there anything over at Newbury that you
So-
drop off here? I keep going over there.
Newbury evolved over the years, it used to just back up and throw your stuff out of your pickup in a pile.
Yeah.
And then they put the transfer station in, and you could dump everything but hazardous, like paints and oils for free. And then they put in a pricing system, because, Mellow has to haul it and get rid of everything, so. And they have to deal with the, potential hazardous metals and components, so. Everything but your bag trash and your cardboard and glass, so you can pay to get rid of.
Thanks.
Having one.
So that was all I had, unless there was anything on the kind of master list that you want to dig into, but I know we're already past time, so.
Okay, moving on to action items. Item A is a request for approval of appointment of Jennifer Boyd and Rick Steele to the Conservation Commission. So this is an appointment that's made by the town manager, and then the select board has to approve it for whatever reason.
That's what the MGL says.
Yeah.
So we did, we interviewed all candidates. We had a number of really great candidates. Molly and I, met with all of them, and, Jennifer and Rick both really stood out based on their, prior experience, current experience, and, credentials, really both seem excellent.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting, oh, sorry, I mean,
I was gonna say, there were, I think, 4 applicants, we started at one point.
Yep.
They were all great, so I
Yeah.
don't just say these 2, because all 4, any 4,
No, right.
all those 4 have been great.
Yeah, yeah.
it's worth noting though, that, so Jennifer worked, I think past tense for the Army Corps of Engineer.
Yep.
And Rick works part, a little bit less than that, but he used to work for Mass DEP, he's an engineer, and he was on the Conservation Commission with us, and Wendy and I were on the first time. So among the 2 people who didn't ask for reappointment, one of them was me to the Conservation Commission, which left the second spot open. Did you appoint anyone to the associate member position, or did anyone of the other 2 want?
So one of the 2 other candidates ended up withdrawing his application. Because he's getting more involved with some things with the Sage Center and felt he'd be spread too thin. Steve Greason remained in consideration, but he specifically said he was not interested in being the associate.
So we still have an associate member spot for anyone, if you're interested, but,
It's interesting how for so long the commission was under staff or under,
Yeah.
appointed, and then we have 4 candidates.
well, it's good, now there's a full board
Yeah.
of 5, and that's great.
Doesn't have anything to do with you leave it, does it?
Yes, and anything to do with me,
It's fun. I'll make a motion to appoint Jennifer Boyd and Rick Steele.
whoops,
Can we confirm who is getting appointed to whose spot? Because,
oh, there were terms?
yes,
Yeah.
so there was 1 vacant position, that can be filled.
And when was that, when did that expire?
I do not know the expiration for that off the top of my head, but
That would be for a 3-year term, a new appointment for 3 years. Since we're filling a vacancy.
assuming, so that is an outstanding vacancy, but then when I think there's a little bit of confusion. You resigned via email as of that effective date.
Oh.
So if you were just not seeking reappointment, you would continue, not lapse, but
We'll change that to not seeking reappointment, I can do that. And it's to make it a smooth term. Is that what you're asking? Rather than starting, like, they fill the last 3 weeks of my term, yeah. it's not-
yeah, so I guess you could just amend your,
Yeah,
yeah. we can
let's
pull-
have them start fresh.
But we wanna make sure that we know who is going to Barry's role.
And do you know how many more years you had in return?
I think I might have that, yeah.
It's not on the website, that's just the thing there.
Oh, it was not?
No, it just says the terms of the 3 remaining members, doesn't say what the vacancies are.
I'm guessing it was 1 of, like, that, it seems like I've been on 2 years.
Oh, well, your term was supposed to expire this June.
Oh, I see, good.
It was supposed to expire
Oh,
June
so it's
29th,
3 years.
but in the email you said I'm
Yeah,
resigning
I'm gonna
as
change
of
that.
today, so there, okay.
I'll change that to not seeking reappointment, so that they'll finish my term.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So do you want to appoint Jennifer for Barry's term? Is that friendly enough?
That's fine, yeah.
yeah,
She's 3 years.
so
And then Rick would be,
Whenever the.
their position is.
Yes, yeah,
probably 3 years too, that's been empty.
Second that motion, David?
You did.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
I just want to make sure I got my notes clear. So Jennifer Boyd, 3 years, starting July 1st.
right.
Okay.
Does that mean you're going to Concom meetings in June?
If they need a quorum, they're no, I don't.
I think they might.
Yeah,
Oh, but then we can't, he hasn't resigned, then the position isn't open yet. So without our resignation, and I think that's why.
So if we appoint someone to finish my term for the next month, can they then, what's the process? Can we just reappoint Verdi,
Then she'll be on the reappointment schedule
which we come up with?
in June.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Leave it the
I'm
way it
wondering
is.
if you could make a motion, just appoint until
To keep her
for 3
continuing.
years and 1 month.
Can you do that?
I don't see why
I
not.
don't-
Appoint her for the remainder of my term and then to be renewed for 3 years?
We're actually not making the appointment, we're confirming the town managers.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, to be.
All right, you figure it out, I guess.
So leave it, I'm resigning immediately and then you.
Okay, personally, I think that's great,
That's the
because
way
I
to
do
do it.
know, they've got a meeting Monday night, and
Yeah.
that way,
You can get started.
they can get right into it, so.
All right, all in favor?
That's good.
And I'm sorry, don't get the labor, what Rick's term was, Rick Spiel's term,
Whatever
is
the.
whatever that,
I'll confirm that.
Yeah, I think it's been vacant.
All right, the next item is special event applications. First one is the summer bandstand concert series. So any questions on this one?
No. That was in the materials from the last meeting, but they're over.
There were some
Yeah,
things to follow up on.
nothing's changed, all right, essentially.
No, this is the same application.
Yeah.
There were some questions that have been followed up
Yeah,
on.
it's fine. We have to vote on it?
Yes, we do.
Motion, make a motion to approve the summer music concert series. Event permit for the date specified and as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
just briefly on this, if it's agreeable to the board, I would, like to, in the next, like month or two before I leave, bring forward this for next summer.
Mhm.
Just if that's okay, because I know, Charlie, he starts booking in September. And even though I've told him all along, this is 100% gonna get approved, it did make him like very nervous. And so he said if they could really just approve next summer's, before he does all the work to book everyone. So if you're happy with this application, we would just update it for next summer and bring it forward in the relatively near term, just so that doesn't become a loose end that could become a headache if,
Yeah, I mean. It just needs really far in advance to approve a.
well, because he's putting his name on the line with bands, booking them. And so even though I told him it's not gonna get denied, he's like.
When does he book them?
He books them, he starts in September
Oh, in September.
for next summer.
That's when you're
These are
suggesting he may
big-
come back?
Well, then we would resubmit the substantially similar application, but for next summer's. Series,
Yeah.
just so, because he feels like he just doesn't want the risk of doing all this work.
Yeah, it's not whether it happens or not, it's the details of how it happens.
I know.
He doesn't have a role in that trash pickup and.
Yeah,
Food preparation.
all right, well, we can talk about it
Yeah.
offline, it's just,
It seems far in advance.
okay.
All right, Mill Pond, only movie night, so,
We just go back there, why does it seem far in advance out of curiosity?
because typically we do the applications, 30 to 60 days ahead of the event. Because there may be other things ongoing or, concerns about police details.
Wouldn't that be a benefit to us that if he's got the dates blocked, that we block in the calendar so that other groups looking to use the venue would be able to look around that
Well, we know what the dates are already.
for next year?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, I will say this category, there is no chance that the bandstand series would get bumped for any other event.
Right, but if we have the dates, wouldn't it just be beneficial to get them on the books? For the peace of mind of the gentleman who's donating his time to organize it?
Yeah.
I would add this, so just then invites other people who wanna try to book something that start like coming in 8 months in advance. Yeah, I'd like to try that, and so you're trying to treat everybody fairly.
This is a
So,
proven track record with,
understood.
in town, it's not a brand new operation.
I guess, since we're discussing it, I mean, I'd like to hear from whoever's booking the bands and whether he's run into trouble in the past that hasn't had the event approved, but has
So
he had
this-
trouble booking?
This is
So
a
this is-
new format, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah, so in the past,
Oh.
so this is part of a attempt to standardize this whole process. And in the past, they didn't apply for a special event permit for this event. Yeah. So I think that's part of the.
There was a lot of static on Facebook of us, it's.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
About requiring it to be done, or?
Well, they get away without doing it, it's like, just leave them alone, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But why are you reading Facebook?
All right, let's not get.
No,
distracted.
but, well, we'll consider that, I would think. Let's
Yeah, I think,
consider
is it possible that you could join us just to have a conversation?
Yeah,
He'd be happy to. The issue is he plays gigs on Thursday night.
Oh,
So that's why,
oh,
with regard to that's why I asked the question, because he can't, he's happy to meet with you guys.
all right, well, maybe I.
But
can
he
follow
can't
up.
do Thursday nights
Yeah.
because he plays in a band and.
Okay,
Well, could he also not just simply book the bandstand, reserve the dates, and then the permit can follow, like later on?
yeah, it's a facility use permit, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Make it
Yeah,
real simple, so nobody's gonna short
Yeah.
take the.
yeah, I think it's just a combination of not having to have
Yeah.
do it before and now having to do it and it's created some.
that's a good idea.
Okay, so we're good on that one?
Good, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Mill Pond Movie Night,
Confused on this one,
what do you confused about?
have to check off on the box.
Yeah, so this was submitted very late, the event is the 26th. They did not include a colored map, but they have since provided one to Amanda, is it in color?
Yes, on time, but not.
Okay. And then they also did not think to, book the building. So there was no facility use permit, so that's an outstanding item that's being followed up on. Since they approved the use of the building, it's pretty safe bet that they will kind of allow to use it. What were you confused about, Chris?
The form is blank, another box to check,
Yeah.
why is it submitted?
I'm looking at the one we have, where do
Yeah, just because it was filed last Friday. Monday was a holiday.
isn't it in their package here?
Yeah, but it's blank. That's what he's pointing out, that it's blank.
I have CB, this is CB2, right? Mill Pond Annual.
Yeah,
Family-
no, this form is
The
up on the
checklist
screen, the
that is filled
checklist.
out by town employees.
Oh,
Yeah, this is what he's saying.
that's not in our package.
No, it is, but it's blank.
Is it?
I provided.
Page 87.
I provided an updated one that was just done right before the meeting to Wendy with all that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were trying to balance
I-
where it just came in Friday afternoon and, Tuesday morning, we're putting together the packet. But we knew they were already effectively advertising this, so we didn't wanna push it to the June 11th meeting.
I'm good.
So that's why it was, the checklist wasn't complete when we were closing out the packet on Tuesday.
So are we looking at that now?
I just have one copy I provided
Okay,
to Wendy,
what do you
usually don't put them on the agenda as
That's fine.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the outstanding items of the map, which has been received, and the facility use request for the mill pond building. Which is, so if you're inclined to approve this, I would make it contingent on,
But does the building department and board of health, do they review it or?
the Board of Health, no further comments or concerns from the health department, no comments from the inspection.
Yeah,
DPW, that's the reservation, no comments or concerns from the chief of police and public safety.
and then this is us,
No, the last one is the town clerk.
or slabs,
Yeah.
you had no issues either, man?
Usually there's much more of a robust process to go through it. I just didn't sign off on the one because we didn't reserve the space and just normally we ask for insurance and certain things because of the time event, so.
Does it need Concom review?
It's not.
It's not on Concom, right?
So this was a relatively new Mill Pond committee member who has never done this and is taking it on, so
Which way is it going?
I think we could approve it contingent on, unless, did you have other items first that you?
Again, this is somebody else, it's just the process is terrible, puts this board in a optimized position to run these things through.
Well, now that we have that, what's the?
I haven't reviewed it, have you?
Oh, well, no, but with all those other boards signing up, I'm not gonna try to get between the police chief or the DPW, right?
Can make the motion.
Just that. Are you inclined move ahead?
Yeah, but with the appropriate.
Yeah, you wanna make that motion?
No,
Yeah, someone else to make that motion?
Yeah. usually defer to the two of you.
So has there ever been a movie night at?
Yes,
Mill
they
Pond
had it 2
before?
years ago,
And how did it go?
quite successful.
So is this described to your knowledge in the same manner sometimes?
Yeah, I was at the meeting last night and we talked through all the details.
Given that and relying on your comfort level, I make a motion to approve the request for the movie night at Mill Pond
On June 26th,
on June 26th.
provided that the facility use request is approved
Yeah.
and the town clerk signs off on the checklist.
That's what I said. That's my motion.
All right, I'll second that. Chris, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the next item is, approval of updated procedures for administration of PEG funds.
So, back in, December of 2024, I believe it was, we had been working with town council on, the cable, franchise agreement. And he had, made clear that under the PEG funds are under the select board's authority unless the select board delegates that authority to someone else. And, so at that time, the board had voted and, to delegate that to my office. So prior to that vote, I had worked with the cable advisory committee to put these, the unredlined, kind of procedure. This was really so to formalize the process for requests for PEG funds. So what you see without the red lines is what was brought to the cable advisory committee a couple of years ago, and they had voted that back in, February 2023. I believe Wendy was at that meeting as well. And, like I said, it was really to formalize the process and make it clear kind of what needed to happen. So since the funds are under the select board's oversight, but you've delegated it to my office, I wanted to update this process because it's no longer under the cable committee. And so we put together a red line and we put together a brief application form, which is intended to be really simple. So if you're happy with it, I would ask you to vote it. If you think it ought to change, if you can give me some direction, we can bring an updated version, but it's intended to be kind of really clear, very linear. Not a lot of headache for anyone, but just to kind of, so there's something in writing, that sets out the process to request PEG funds.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused about like the CAC, that some things are underlined rather than struck through.
Oh, the underlined is additions. Oh, this,
There's a lot of CACs.
oh, yeah, that shouldn't be in there. All right.
Yeah, I thought it was just my hard copy and online was the same thing. I put it.
Yeah.
No, on mine online and struck through. It's funny how it shows up there as being
Well,
underlined.
I took this off the online as well.
Oh, it's- Really?
Yeah, it's
In
showing,
package,
so for instance, this one I've got highlighted right here is showing a strike through
Yeah.
in mine. And it's showing when I reviewed the draft, it was, so it's showing up differently on the page than it was. Than it is on my printed copy and than it was on my screen on my computer, so.
That paragraph may have different spacing. Cause you know, as town manager, there's more space between town manager and the underline and. there
Yeah,
is
it's
in the
under,
paragraph.
that's a weird,
Maybe the-
it's like,
Maybe the spacing in the paragraph.
but it's
Yeah,
just,
I'm fine with
Yeah.
the
Okay.
concept.
The
Okay.
intent is to lose the CAC, it does.
correct,
even
yeah,
exist anymore.
correct, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, I hadn't noticed that until just now, cause my form is looking.
How much
Normal.
money are we talking about is in the fund?
There's a little over $200,000, but the town meeting every spring appropriates a maximum amount that can be expended in the subsequent fiscal year. So
Not
that
for any
happens-
one effort, but. for-
No, but when we bring forward that amount, it's based on a rationale. The baseline operations, which is essentially televising the public meetings and the production that goes into getting those online, hovers in the neighborhood of about 20,000 a year. And that includes things like special events or town meetings, you know. And then, we'd like to reserve some amount of money in case of equipment needs, if we need new microphones or speakers. A couple of years ago, there was a bigger ticket item, we replaced the server for the cable, which was about $12,000.
So it covers those kinds of.
Covers those kinds of things too. And then these.
Are we getting funds on a periodic basis?
Oh, yeah,
That-
quarterly, we get from both,
Will that ever end, or what's the?
so that is where this cable license agreement come into play, because that's where that percentage is negotiated. And so we do know based on what's going on in the industry and more streaming and so forth, the cable companies are trying to trim that.
And there's
But
fewer subscribers.
there's fewer subscribers, yeah.
And does this allow a citizen to suggest they'd want to get some funding?
Yeah.
For the cable program? What are the criteria, what's the screening for? whether
Well,
someone-
That's what this-
That's what this is intended
Yeah,
to
which
do,
is
so
very-
that's where the first on this checklist is it an eligible use, just yes or no? And then is it approved, yes or no?
But
And
what are the criteria? Oh,
so
pornographic, obscene, or not otherwise inappropriate expenditure, those are it?
it's, it's, the PEG stands for Public Educational Governmental.
Right.
So it's very broad, but the end game has to be on local cable. So for instance, a few weeks ago, Wendy had asked, might the cost of the Mill Pond movie night screen rental be payable? It's not, because that's not an event that's being on, so it's got to end on local cable.
So like West Newbury Volunteer requested money to pay speakers, and then that content was posted on cable, so that.
So as long as that event was recorded, it was put out on cable, that was a totally appropriate.
But it's a pretty broad,
Very
as
broad,
long as it's educational and going on.
or governmental, or, yeah,
And just so Mary's aware, both of those contracts are up for renewal, one's actually lapsed.
correct.
They're both cable companies, and we
Yeah.
had legal or somebody looking at it a little.
Yeah,
So if you wanna get involved at some point. just
Oh,
let
that's a
me-
perfect job for Barry.
Oh,
yeah, we're in the thick of that, it's, yeah.
Well, and it does,
Actually.
the money that we pay, they take a small percentage of that, and it comes back to the community, so.
sure.
And they wanna give us less, and we wanna get more, so.
So that could knock down my Xfinity bill?
No, not yours personally, everybody else's.
Yeah, no, if there's an issue, I mean, if select board involvement is relevant, let me know. Otherwise, don't.
It is, it's just a matter of when you wanna take it on, but that's.
When you've got it teed up and ready to go.
I
Yeah.
think this is a fall item.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, is it?
What's on the?
Yeah, no, if it's not. on-
Wait on
First.
yeah.
When the time comes, let me know.
All right, great,
Yeah.
Barry.
But that does tend to be the negotiating point, is how much money.
Yeah.
Like, these are lengthy contracts,
Yeah.
but the dynamic ends up being. the
And
money.
KP Law looks there.
Oh, of course, yeah, and by the way, any legal expenses we incur in negotiating those license agreements is payable from the PEG funds. So that's it's not coming out of the taxpayer to negotiate.
And did we not have a proposal for Adam for like 3 or 4 different things to do?
Mhm.
Coming forward, and those could come out of here too.
Yeah, and that was
He's
embedded
got a
in
plan.
the 40,000 that was authorized by town meeting for this fiscal year, which we never end up spending. It's usually more like 25 to 30 a year, but they appropriate 40, and that gives you a little flexibility if you do have an unanticipated expense.
Good.
But there is a kind of a backup to that. That's how we arrive at
Sounds good.
So any content changes?
No, I like the way it's.
So if you can figure out whatever happened with the
that.
highlight.
Yeah, I mean, it's showing up fine here, so it's some kind of formatting issue, which is unfortunate,
Okay.
but in the written, it's looking fine here,
Okay,
so.
right. Motion to, you need this to be approved?
I think it'd be good.
Okay. Chris?
I'll make a motion to approve it as it is properly revised.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, the next item is a request for authorization to submit an NOI for the Mill Pond dock repairs. So just kind of as background, I was at the Mill Pond committee meeting last night at Mill Pond, and it's in dire shape, and quite dangerous, so this is going to have DPW remove the dock. So Concom does not want to speed the process and the fall the process, which is their choice. But it's dangerous for residents and kids to be using it. So we're gonna remove it pending the, Concom.
Down in the bad pictures I showed Barry before we
Of the
we have the
bench.
bench crew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, we don't need permits for
well,
this.
I watched 2 kids walk across the bench and it's going up and down.
Yeah,
It's
it's
about,
And then the dock is like
I know,
rickety too, so.
yeah, so.
So this is on the Concom agenda?
I think the legal notice
Yeah,
has been
Yeah,
filed for
the
June.
way it's been handled in the past, consistently is anytime there's a notice of intent filed for property under the select board's oversight, the board has voted to authorize me to sign the notice. of
Yeah,
intent on
sure.
the board's behalf. So I wouldn't sign it until you
Oh, okay.
authorize me to sign
Will
it.
this get on the next agenda?
It would be, so Dan has it teed up for the June 15th. It was too late for the June 1st.
It's a legal notice.
Yeah, because of the legal ad, so, but he's got the legal ad pre-drafted, so it would be on the June 15th agenda.
So that means the document, it's approved, let's say, and then it's,
Then the
you're not
appeals
gonna bring it in until July.
July 1st is his estimate, so in the meantime, that's what led to the conversations, with Butch about just pulling out what's there. Which I think would not be popular, but I think that's probably favorable to leaving it in the condition it's in.
That there was no permitting required or anything.
Right, yeah, Concom,
I did reach out to the Mill Pond Chair and informed her, and she said she thought that was a good idea, so.
okay,
Good, all right.
so Butch did caution me that, based on the condition of it, that if he removes it, it's basically gonna be scrap. So, but I left it with him that either you or I would talk to him in the morning, and we're just giving some direction, so it's,
Meaning, to
uh,
put it back, they'd have to use new materials?
yeah, he said, yeah, it'd be pretty involved to remove it, and that it might not, it might compromise the, so we gotta get Brian was out today.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna call him on vacation, so, we just need to get the right, I only learned about the condition of its current condition this morning, so.
The only, I'm hesitating because how is the current? It's shown on the plan as a metal pier. Is it
The
fig-
proposed,
You mean the plate they're gonna put in?
No, just the plan that shows the wetland flagging. Page 108 materials. Yeah, that one. It says metal pier. Is it metal or?
Oh, the deck, so looking at some kind of.
No, this is the existing dock.
Right.
I don't know how it's anchored in Mill Pond, and if they're gonna replace it with different anchoring, or whatever, I can imagine.
Oh, it's gonna be all in.
I'm hearing the Concom chair and
It
others.
looks like a square pressure post.
yeah, but I get what you're saying, the existing, they're gonna have to, so that could change.
That
you know.
expands the
So
scope.
that's what I wondered, which NOI are we gonna vote on?
Well, this NOI is strictly for adding the gangway, and attaching it.
But it may end up delaying getting it back in for the summer, so I'm thinking that it may not be a good idea to take it out. Unless they really were intending in replacing it, otherwise. People, the project that's being proposed was to prevent people from walking through the wetland to get from stuff. They've been doing that for,
Right, but now they are walking on
No,
unsupported
but-
benches and logs and.
so take the benches and.
Well, even the decking is not fast, that's just floating in the water. The current first section of the metal pier is in the water, and it's not fastened. I think it's really dangerous.
How is it?
It's fastened on
How is it
that.
staying in place?
It's floating in the water.
No, but you can see there are legs, there's legs on each section.
It's not, where it hits the ground, it's just
If
sitting.
we discuss this NOI, decide if we're in favor of approving it, and then let staff work out whether, an additional NOI or how the new.
Understood, I'm putting a bug in your ear, Angus, about perhaps not having him take out the existing dock. Because you're talking about a new filing to replace it.
It'll be a full replacement too, I mean, I agree with
Yeah,
you.
but then you're also, but time-wise, it might be better off replacing it in early winter rather than now.
You're saying leave a hazard in place for people to engage with.
Well, choose your poison. It's been a hazard for how long?
It's,
If you're calling it a hazard,
it's progressively worse.
understood, but sitting on the Concom, they can't just take it out and put it back.
Well, that's, so
And
that's.
that's
why
going to mean
suggest-
this summer, there may not be a dock up.
Yeah, so I think the conservation agent and highway superintendent and.
We should talk that
facility
through,
supervisor.
the issue of taking it out. Following me what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am, right.
Thank you.
I would favor removing it.
You are?
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm expressing my opinion,
Yeah.
saying that it shouldn't, it's not as easy as, why don't we take it out, scrap it, and put it back, but putting it back
Yes, I told them, right.
from a permitting standpoint.
Yeah.
Molly and the commission have to tell the town, which is what we told Brian the first time, that you can't just go drop something in here, you need to file this notice of intent, so it has to keep following. But for purposes of just. So now what they'd be doing is putting this section and getting the permit to put this into nowhere, right? They'd be authorized on July 1st to put in a gangway into no dock.
well, I think staff need to look at the current situation.
Yeah.
You know, they have to attach it to what's there, perhaps it's just all the debris and. I don't know.
I wasn't aware that the dock was in such poor shape that it was being considered to be taken out and scrapped.
No, we just learned that today, Barry.
No, that just came in.
Yeah,
Hot off the
An hour.
press?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. Sorry.
yeah, I just learned that first thing this morning.
no, he's saying, which is reporting. to
Oh,
you that
oh, yeah.
Existing. docks.
Correct, yeah, that was just at the late this afternoon,
Yeah. So do we want to approve the filing of this NOI? Cause they could always.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think we should, otherwise we're, 2 weeks to our next meeting, and then I think the legal notice has already been filed.
No, it has not been filed, not until, I told them to draft something, but not send it until after the board's vote. So if the direction was to revise the NOI for a replacement, but I don't know that we have a budget for
I
that.
say we're not funding, yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
unless Butch has it in his budget somewhere.
I doubt it, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, I know. Is it even realistic to think you could attach the other piece to the existing structure? I don't.
I thought it was, but, you know, on closer inspection, it's not. But that was the plan, that was,
I'm happy to vote this NOI and let them go as far as they can. If they find out it's not feasible, then yeah, they'll be able to.
specific.
You guys wanna go there? I mean, I'm leaning to voting no on filing this, cause to me, it doesn't make sense. Cause it's, now you've got the cart and not the horse, before you have the horse and not the cart, and,
It's just a timing issue, unless you want to have an additional meeting.
but you got a gangway to nowhere. The whole premise was to make this all safe and functioning, so it seems like we didn't, at least when I was sitting on the Concom talking about this with Brian, I didn't hear. I know you heard this today, but there was no issue of whether the dock was gonna even be a question.
Yeah,
If that now has been newly discovered information, then maybe they ought to take the hard look at doing it in one fell swoop.
Yeah, but I think Brian is the one who's been dealing with it, and so he needs to put eyes on it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or is he back tomorrow, Angus?
I didn't check the calendar, I'm not sure if he's back tomorrow.
So I would like to approve this pending Brian's determination, if the dock has to be, or, you know. Can't be removed without destroying it, then it doesn't make sense, and they just want to submit it.
Right, so you approve it, be filed, but with guidance of don't do it if you don't think it's gonna make sense. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Do you want to make that motion?
No.
Motion to approve the notice of intent. If Brian is able to actually go forward with the work.
Second,
Right. I just had a question, Angus, on the fees. I don't think you can waive the state fee, you can waive
Right.
the local fee, so it says NA on both of these.
Okay.
That's just something that has to be addressed.
Okay, I will, I'll fix that, where I submit it.
Yeah, it says it's exemption on the transmittal fee.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
all right, all in favor?
aye,
thank you.
All right. Item E, request to authorize submittal on the drug payback grant. This is from, public safety.
Yeah, and this has been a very routine annual grant, and in the past, I don't recall it's ever gone through the process, but it is something the town's done every year. It's a modest amount of money, and Chief Dwyer had brought this forward, and so until we amend that policy to set a dollar threshold, we're just trying to bring things in front of you. So obviously, there was no draft application in front of you. The way the policy reads is really to authorize the submittal of a grant. It's not to approve the actual grant application. But the intent of the policy going back many years is that prior to any town entity applying for a grant, that the select board has eyes wide open in terms of whether there's either a dollar match or implication of significant staff time, so that those commitments aren't made without the board authorizing. So I know with some grants, it's gone further in terms of approving the actual grant, but that's not over the years been how it's been done consistently. So that's why this is all I had for the packet, so I figured this was, better than nothing.
Do you have an idea of the dollar amount?
It's like $3,000 or $4,000. Yeah, it's less than that, definitely.
Well, because you've got three options, but so I was gonna say, we already have the kiosk. So it should be just a service grant component.
It is, yeah, it's not the.
$1,300.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen.
Well, first was funding only granted 1,300 support. And under the kiosk thing, it talks about, so if you already have the kiosk, you're not getting the kiosk, you just. It might not be money, they just talk about they take. The medicine kits back. Or they just pay for that on the 12 boxes. I can make the motion to approve, I don't care which one it is, I think it's a great program, and they're doing it, so.
You make a motion?
I'm going to.
No.
Word it here, come on, Barry.
No, I thought sometimes.
Make a motion to approve the chief's grant for the drug take back program.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item F is a request for an alteration of the FY 27 holiday schedule. We approved this at the last meeting, but. And so on.
Yeah, the challenge here, and I'm sorry I didn't pick up on it before bringing this to you last time. But the challenge that we have is for the upcoming July 4th holiday, and then for next June, the Juneteenth holiday. Both of those normally fall, or both of those actual dates fall on Saturday. So most town operations are Monday through Friday, but the library is open on Saturday. So the question becomes, for July 4th and June 19th of 2027, with this revised schedule in front of you, the two that are bolded, it would change it that for the library, those holidays would be recognized on the day that they fall. What that would mean is that people were scheduled to work on Friday, would work on Friday. They would not get a holiday, but that is how the personnel policy is written. You are entitled to pay for the holidays that fall on the days that you normally schedule to work. So, for instance, if there's a Friday holiday and we have some number of employees who don't work Fridays, they don't get a holiday because they're already not working. So we didn't pick up on that when we brought this forward. And we had brought those both to the prior Friday, but if that is the case, then would that mean the library's closed on Friday and Saturday? In which case, then there's two holidays. So
Can't we just pay employees that normally work on Friday, consistent with this policy? And then the 3 employees that work on Saturday, just pay them for their Saturday holiday hours?
just to recognize the holiday different on the different days.
Just for the 3 employees that it affects?
Is there no one who works both days? Is the Saturday workers all unique to Saturday?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay,
That's an easy way to address it, if it's not,
yeah,
there's no,
that would be an easy way to address it.
yeah.
And I think that would be fair.
I think if there is an employee that works both Friday and Saturday, we should push one, but.
So if I
So
could,
it's Friday.
this schedule is not just for payment of personnel, but this is for closures.
Correct,
So this would say that the library is closed on Saturday, Independence Day.
correct,
Which the previous schedule said Friday.
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
so as long as, this schedule seems to make sense from a closure, but then if it falls into the or step 1, this makes sense. Step 2 is adjust the personnel payment the way you're saying.
Well, but then it would also need to be closed on Friday if those employees.
Or to do that.
Yeah. Which I think is fine.
Yeah, from a
They're only open.
library usage, doesn't matter.
As long as there's no overlap with the employees, right? They can
Right.
do all of this.
Right. And if there is overlap, I would assume they'd want to be paid for Friday because they're working more hours.
yeah.
Does that make sense? Or do you have any other solution, I know that? Mr. Barry?
Not me, but does this need to change or not? Which schedule is the one that would?
We're gonna have to put Friday and Saturday in there for the library, that's what, so the public would be aware too.
Yeah, I mean, we could add, that to the box and add like a footnote along the line
For the library, and then what other holiday was it?
Juneteenth of next year, June 19th, 2027.
So those two Saturdays, we have an asterisk about the Friday.
Yeah,
Can you make that change?
Specific,
And then back,
like works both, they get paid more. We know, we go out and route.
right.
so we can approve it with that, subject to that.
Yeah.
What do you think? The library response to that would be?
I think it would be favorable.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked it over with the director and she understood that it was kind of a legend, but we needed to bring it back to
Yeah.
confirm.
Okay. Right? Everybody good with that? Need motion?
The motion to approve the revised holiday schedule will change. Independence Day, Saturday, on July 4th, 2026, and also Friday, the 3rd, and on Juneteenth, the library will be closed on the 18th and the 19th, and employees working both days get paid for one.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Well done, Chris.
After
All right, meeting minutes, we have April 27th, which was town meeting, and May 14th.
motion approved, the minutes of April 17th, 27th is submitted.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You abstaining?
Yes, I'll abstain. Wasn't
All right.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 14th as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion items. The first item is, just, to talk about police department staffing levels and expenses. This comes out of the budget, cuts that were proposed for this year. I know Angus has met with the police chief and the town accountant to discuss this. I also had a conversation with the police chief. I think the way, rather than make policy changes, which, is a whole much longer discussion. The way to manage this, to me, seems to be to have, active reporting, how he's doing with overtime. I think we talked about a monthly basis.
Requested, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think, we can take a look at that and look at trends. Rather than try to make a blanket statement now about how overtime will be managed. Yeah.
Well, and if staffing changes over the course of.
Yeah, right now they're fully staffed,
Right.
so pretty good, but yeah.
One other thing that somehow I learned that with the vacation time, that some people sort of aggregate and take all the accrued vacation at 1 month, like in June, towards the end of the fiscal year. Is that historically true? In either the police department or others, where if staffing becomes difficult because of the use it or lose the policy?
So I can tell you for the personnel that I oversee, the process that we use, but it's different for police, because the chief.
We might as well stick with police.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
but I don't have a role in approving.
but do you see, or have we seen that
Only on the time.
dumping of people off?
I
I just don't want us to lose police coverage in June.
right,
Well,
yeah,
they managed it, so far, he's not gonna not staff,
So he's been,
yeah, he's managed it.
He's managed that.
A lot, unfortunately. a lot of
especially when there
my-
are fewer officers. Okay, that was my only question.
Yeah.
It's been well managed. given
Yeah, and
that-
so his intent is to look at, like, typically in the winter, if there's less stuff going on, maybe they don't need to have overtime, filling open slots, so. It's something that he's gonna manage, and I did reiterate that we'd like to have a monthly report. So that we can discuss it.
My question, we haven't seen any. Who's that report come from? He is the town accountant,
It should come from him,
okay?
That's-
So
that's
he's aware of that?
yeah. So if there's a particular format or information you wanna see, I think that'd be important to share that with him so that he can provide what needed.
Won't that be reduced to longer, right? How does it align with?
Like, so what,
One fall for the budget, right?
but I think it's more than that, you know, projecting forward, what issues are coming up in the next month, what are gonna be challenges, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's the basic format is
Yeah,
a review of the prior month compared to what he was expecting, and then prediction of what he's expecting in the coming months, so it's sort of a rolling
yeah.
look back,
Forward and
look
back.
forward. And you asked for this a while ago or recently?
Well, we discussed it as part of the budgeting,
Yeah.
that would be critical, you know.
No, I think it would be good. By email or otherwise to make a request for that. We would do that in public session, the executive session, what would the form?
Be open.
It could be open.
Yeah,
Now, this all started, because you weren't here at the time. When, obviously, when employees are out, the budget
yeah. no,
gets out of whack. And it kept growing and growing. We negotiated a new contract and they said they thought they could fully staff at that point. And they did, then they came back in the budget and they wanted 180 for overtime, I think it was.
185,
We cut it down to
120.
120. Saying the anticipation expectation was that it was gonna reduce based on it. So he is fully staffed, but again, as you say, something could change, but that's the quick background.
And that number was based on 3 or 4 years ago, the overtime expenditures, there was a huge jump.
No, understood. I mean, is your expectation that you give us some kind of written report? Some number of days in advance of our meeting and then show up, or that he would show up with the report?
I think we should have a report prior to the meeting, so we can discuss.
And how will we communicate a date or a deadline? for
Yeah,
that?
I'll
We'll
draft.
work on that. Oh, good. Yep. No, that's good. I like that idea.
One of my beefs is I don't like to see a documented meeting. You
No,
prep the meeting.
no, I understood.
Yes, I need to see it a couple of days ahead of time so you can assess it, you can have your questions ready, so when somebody comes in and drops it, I just.
Yeah, I didn't know, I don't know what had been communicated.
Nothing to date.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'll include
Yeah.
that, thanks. Anything on the expenses? I mean, I know there were a few things in the budget that we thought probably, or we would have preferred not be included, but we can't really dictate, you know.
Did we not know that? I thought we did.
Yeah, yep, we did.
I don't know if you agree or disagree, that becomes.
Well, yeah, we've got some analysis, we wanna see how tonight's discussion went, but we've been kind of crunching the numbers to how, what adjustments would be needed in FY 27 to meet the budgeted amount. So we'll get into that detail, but basically looking at on the expense side, what of those expenses are kind of discretionary as opposed to things that are either contractual, like uniform allowances or facility maintenance or vehicle repairs and fuel. There's a lot of things embedded in that police expense budget. So we've done a very, very detailed analysis of the prior complete fiscal year 25 and year-to-date 26 to understand exactly how those have broken down in terms of incurred costs. And like I said, we want to see how tonight went, but we'll have basically present that to the board, kind of a package of these are what the costs have been. Honestly, I don't see a path to meet the approved budget, but that's something we'll share that information that you can make a decision about.
So part of what you're doing is a required versus
Yes.
optional,
Yeah.
and who's deciding what's required and what's optional?
Well, we're me and Jenny and Chief are working on this very closely. But ultimately that's gonna come to the board and you can get direction as to how, if you see a path to meet the approved budget. But the expense budget was approved at about 20 grand less than the actual expenses for FY 25. So it's 2 years later, and so it's.
So it was based on extrapolating out.
No, I understand.
To date, so is there like a big item that's coming due that was not reflected in that extrapolation?
There's a lot of different expenses that it's hard to generalize. So for instance, in the FY 25, one of the incurred costs was for the outside investigation, the internal affairs investigator. That's, you don't know when that'll come up, but that was not anticipated that year.
Mhm.
And it's not specifically budgeted, but I think you'll find the analysis very very interesting, because it breaks things down in a good detail.
Right, I just don't wanna discuss the budget, I mean, the budget
No,
is what it is, so.
Well, it is, but if there's gotta be changes to meet that budget, I think that needs to be clear to the board.
No, I can't think of all the things that have been cut, I can think of the one was the PR.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's agreeable to that or not, if he's not, that could be,
I mean, he'd prefer not to, but I think that is definitely a discretionary expense, whether it's a worthwhile expense is a different discussion. But that's one thing that could be picked out is you don't have to have it. You know, he would like to have it and, again, I don't know how far we wanna go with that.
No, I just wanna have kind of a general discussion about, so perhaps we can ask them to report on the expenses
Mhm.
today as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like to know whether there are certain expenses every month or whether certain expenses only happen, say, in January. I think that's useful information to us, actually.
Mhm.
But I don't want the assumption to be that he's just gonna come back for fall town meeting and make up the difference. I want a serious effort to try to meet his budget.
Right, so my expectation was what you were talking about in these monthly reports would cover expenses
Okay.
as well. I think that's worthwhile.
All right. Okay, anything else on that for now? No. Item B is discussion regarding seasonal management of Ash Street. So just before we start this discussion, the context of this is the citizens petition that was received. So I want to acknowledge that and see if there's any questions on that. That's looking for the street to be closed from March through June. Also, I mean, this was discussed 3 years ago in May. The same conversation happened. We had people from Natural Heritage as well as Department of Fish and Game involved. And there's actually information included in the packet about a management plan and a permit. So this is all, we've discussed this before, so. So I'm not sure how we want to proceed. I mean, I think one thing we can all agree on is that traffic goes too fast on Ash Street. Whether closing it is the solution or somehow managing the speed is, I think that's a better solution, but that's tricky. Town employees, the police chief, and DPW, superintendent are not in favor of closing the road. Because of emergency access, it's very difficult. I mean, just as we have trouble enforcing the speed limit, we also have trouble enforcing it when it's closed. People just go around the barriers. If you make the barriers, hefty enough to prevent traffic, then there is a risk to the public if they're not aware they're there and they drive into them, which happened. Few years ago. So there's a lot here. My hope for tonight is to just discuss the petition. I know people are here that, are interested. And then we'll take whatever we, hear tonight and then maybe move on further discussions with the police chief. Highway superintendent. What do you have in mind for tonight?
don't have a program involved that comments, I don't do in the summer. How do you wanna do it?
Yeah,
If can, I signed the petition more to make sure that it got discussed. I couldn't sign it before I was elected, but, so I don't have a particular view. I do know, I have spoken with some folks about speed, like temporary speed bumps, something, but because of the nature of the road surface, they're not gonna stay in place. And I was thinking of that. You see them with the bright yellow and
Yeah.
but they get pinned into the pavement, but I don't know that they would hold, and then they get dislodged, and that's a danger. And I am concerned, and I'd want to hear more from the folks in town and public safety about closed, what that means for response time to people in the general vicinity in terms of emergency fire and otherwise. Not that I'm not concerned about wildlife, but I'm human life too. And so one option, and I don't know whether it would exist, is at least putting up an LED sign, that is a warning during that period of time, wildlife endangered, slow down. And so at least some people will do that. But I also want to hear from the folks who will petition that and what they consider as alternatives to closure.
Yeah, somebody I spoke with brought up that sign, idea of a sign as well. If we could, target like the 1 week of migration or whatever, I think it would be effective. If we have it out there for 6 months, people are just not gonna pay attention.
Well, if you change the sign, it could be this week it's the, turtles, next week it's the salamanders, the next week is, geese with goslings. But so maybe it just says, and people will become informed about, what.
People don't become informed, that's the problem. We've been down this path. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I walk through there almost every day. There is a family of geese and they sit right on the side of the road. And within a couple of weeks, they're gonna be gone, cause these idiots, and you can call me out for it, but they are, they drive through there 50 miles an hour. By the end of the summer, the turtles are all squished, the geese are all dead, the snakes are all dead. And
Well, you're making an argument for closure.
so what we did last time, we talked speed bumps, which there's a lot of problems with that, they make concrete ones, those would work. What had been decided last time was to let the road rut out until it was an indirect reverse speed bump.
Yeah.
And it worked pretty good for the first year, and then DPW doing the fantastic job they did has made that road so you can drive so fast again, because for the first year, it was, you'd walk through, it was almost comical to watch the people, they'd have to slow and go around the potholes. So I'm gonna say we either have to get back to that stage, or the next time this comes, I will be in favor of closing the road, because if people can't respect it, you just can't keep this insanity up. And I understand the public safety thing. Maybe you put a gate on each end and public safety can get through,
Right.
but it's getting to the level of. It's just so disrespectful, these people, and they do go through there 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And there's been at least one car every year that's so out of control, they actually go off into the swamp. So it's a repetitive habit that people just don't get. So either let it run out and slow it down indirectly, or,
I think since we discussed that a few weeks ago, Angus did.
yeah, and I talked to Bush personally about it.
And I do think, so, and that was the outcome of this dialogue with natural heritage is some kind of way of speed bump
Speed control,
physically,
right.
yeah.
But what I'm saying, if we can't do that, then I would be definitely in favor of.
Are gates that public safety could open for themselves?
Should give them bob and they could pop it, yeah.
I'd like to explore that.
Yeah, so the
But-
challenge with that, according to the police chief, is that unless they're well lit and obvious, somebody coming down the road in the middle of the night could drive right into it, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
You know,
We can't fix every problem.
well,
No.
if you have a barrier across the road that's never, been there before, I think it is a hazard.
I'd be
Unless
interested
you
in
put light.
hearing from the petitioners, but I don't think we need to be told about what we're trying to protect. I think,
Right.
and I think we all agree on the issue. I'd be interested to know if these sort of other folks have an idea of how to control speed as opposed to just closure.
Yeah, I have
Two
two
questions,
questions.
do you have any information on?
Last time Rick was on the board, we're here,
Mhm.
and he lobbied to purchase a trailer with a speed thing.
With a what?
The speeding is the thing and everything else. The trailer was purchased, we spent a lot of money on it, and I've seen it on Maple Street a couple of times, I haven't seen it again. I've never seen it on Ash Street, when I inquired, the police chief said he wouldn't put it out there because we get vandalized, so I'm not sure. That's not a
Being
solution.
the one that tells you what your speed is?
Yeah.
Here's the speed limit, you're going this fast. So that as a solution, obviously is not viable at this point. Lost my thought of the other, we already did. Oh, right there, highlighted luckily. I don't know what the program has been, it's probably insignificant about getting the websites to list the road as discontinued. If somebody previously had volunteered was gonna go on and get to Google and Waze and those kind of things. I don't know what the result of that was, if that has happened. That only cuts down on a limited amount because you see most of the same cars going right the same days, local traffic. So,
Yeah, it seems to me like speed enforcement is either, actively enforced or preventing the speed from happening. And neither one right now are working, although having the road gutted out is working to some extent.
I think you've got a lot, more than it is currently, those are only 18-inch ruts, last time they were 3 foot, 4 foot ruts, and you could get through, but you're gonna take it slow, you're gonna lose something.
Yeah.
So.
You wanna invite folks to?
Yeah, Lisa, are you still on?
She's right
Yeah,
there.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, it's come in. So if you could focus your comments on ways other than closing the road, that's what we're primarily interested in tonight.
Right, well, I mean, I also started out, Lisa Forbesham Holtz, 150 Middle Street. Looking at this as they're speeding, that's why they're hitting the ducks or the geese. And then I started doing lots of research and talking to lots of people, and it's one of those things where the more you know, and things that you learn. And I had no idea about how critical the vulnerable species were in this area, and that this is a really unique wetland area. It's not just kind of the swamp that I also walk through all the time too. I'd just like to read this letter from I reached out to Jacob Kubel, who works for Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, who's done a lot of research in the area on amphibians and eggling. That's his specialty. Dear members of the board, I coordinate amphibian conservation work for the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program of Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. Through planning and implementation of rare species inventory, monitoring, research, habitat management, land protection throughout the Commonwealth. I'm writing to express support for seasonal closure of Ash Street in West Newbury, particularly the section between residences at 114 and 162 Ash. The aforementioned section of Ash Street borders and passes through the Crane Pond Wildlife Management Area, occurs within priority habitat of rare species, and coincides with biomap core habitat and critical natural landscape. The Crane Pond area is especially significant to the conservation of certain amphibians and reptiles. For example, results of surveys I completed there in 2025 and 26 suggest that the site ranks very high at the state level for conservation of rare amphibian species. That's including the blue spotted salamander, which is just below endangered species. And additional data submitted to and accepted by NATSP indicate that the Ash Street area in particular supports an important segment of the local population. As you may know, amphibians and reptiles are vulnerable to being killed by automobiles where roads border or pass through wetland. And some of these species, inflated adult mortality threatens population visibility. Well-timed temporary closures of the aforementioned section of Ash Street to non-emergency vehicles would help to reduce risks of adult amphibians and reptile mortality at the site. Nighttime closures during March and April would be especially beneficial to the aforementioned rare amphibian population. Daytime closures extending into May and June would benefit reptile populations as well. In the interest of protecting wildlife and conservation concern, I wholeheartedly support seasonal closures of the roadway between 114 and 162 Ash. So I've also started looking at this as slowing people down, that kind of thing, but I've really come around to the idea that it's very important for us to close that road for at least part of the season. And I did post on, we don't have a newspaper, so I posted on our Facebook pages and had almost 150 likes and comments to close that road. Not one negative comment, not one person saying, oh, we can't close that road. My observations over the last couple of weeks have been that it seems to be a cut through, especially for a lot of people out of town heading out to 95. I did a quick survey, and from the top of Middle and Bachelor, if you were to take an alternate route, which would be going down Bachelor and then onto Moulton and right on Brickett, it is only an additional 3 minutes. And you end up actually at the other side of the dirt portion of Ash Street. So you're able to service all those houses on the other side. So it's not that much of an inconvenience for a few months to go around.
So did you have any thoughts on other than closing, trying to slow the traffic down?
I agree with Chris in that I did notice that the traffic was definitely slower when the road was not maintained. However, one thing that concerns me is the amount of trucks that go through, including delivery trucks. I've seen an oil truck go through even with the posted weight limit signs. And when cars do go off, and it is true, been walking down that road for almost 30 years, just about every year. So a car goes over on the side because if you get near the edge, you're gonna go over. And they're on their side, and I don't know if our conservation agent is down there or what, but I mean, I would assume that oil and gas is leaking into the very sensitive wetlands, and that's a danger. So what if an oil truck were to go down that road and have to move over and go off the side? It's too critical of an area to take a chance on something like that, in my opinion. I also have been speaking with Carol Decker from West Newbury Wild and Native, and they go out on big night and collect data on the amount of salamanders and wood frogs and crossing. And they had I think over 80. They counted over 80 blue spotted salamanders this year, which is one of the largest counts in Massachusetts of anywhere, and lots of people go out on that night and count. So all over the state, which is another example of how critical the area is. So I understand that for emergency vehicles and for safety, that people are, the police chief and DPW are concerned about leaving that road open. But I don't know if just not maintaining the road or putting up a speed bump, I don't know that that's gonna do it. I really feel like the will of the town here is to close that road.
Well, I have to say, I mean, 150 people out of, that, I think it's a stretch to say that's the rule of the town.
I don't know, I mean, 150 people is more than show up at a town meeting a lot of times. I think that's pretty significant for 150 people to make comments or likes.
So the outcome, the conditions that were imposed by the Natural Heritage is a traffic control plan that slows traffic. I mean, that's the outcome of this whole big thing 3 years ago was their recommendation. They had, specialists out there looking at it. There's procedures in here to do, inspections and, species counts every time they resurface it. So I mean, this is a quite extensive,
Right.
Program to manage it.
I don't know if just slowing people down, I think on those critical nights, even going slow, you're still gonna go over salamanders and frogs, but,
So what did they do when they counted this year? They just out there with headlamps?
Yeah, and the year before, I guess the road was actually closed because it was so bad, they have closed it at times, so they kind of lucked out on that. I guess I'm not understanding why it's so critical to keep that road open. I really would love a good explanation on
Well,
that.
if I may, that was my, I've heard it said that the police chief and DP, who was it?
Highway
Just the police
superintendent.
Yeah.
Highway
And
superintendent.
his highway superintendent believed that it, for public safety reasons.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more, I'd like to hear what the time of response is to get to
Right.
certain areas.
It's not just the response, it's the closing the road that's been open forever
Yeah,
and people aren't aware of it. You have to install lighting and make sure that
oh yeah, you'd have to, if you're gonna close it, you've gotta do it safely.
Okay, so that's a
No.
big deal.
Well,
Yeah.
understood,
Yeah.
but from reading, the Natural Heritage Agreement from a couple of years ago and just listening to them, the hatchlings coming out, it's almost like it's not just March to June, it's almost 6 months of closure. On both ends,
Yeah.
so this isn't just a short-term closure, but so to be clear, why,
But it could be though, this is,
it could be open, closed,
well, no, she was saying in his letter, nighttime in March and April, so. What I'm wondering if there's some way to accomplish that as a start.
Yeah, I think the police chief would entertain a suggestion of a limit, like a week. You know, and you can't always predict each year, but I think with enough communication, if there's a critical week, you know, because it's closed anyway for resurfacing.
there's a critical, doesn't need to be resurfaced. The other part.
No, but what I'm saying is there is already a pattern. If it's flooded, it's closed, you know, temporarily. So we could do a similar thing.
Well, how are people warned not to go through there at night when it's flooded? So somehow, people, unless they're concerned about the lack of safety for other
People do
people.
go through when it's flooded, they put the A-frames at the end of the street.
Yeah.
And I've seen people go through the water,
Right,
so they don't stop.
but to be clear, my point is,
Less.
yeah, one, you know, if you're gonna close it for the night time in March for the salamanders, how are you gonna block it off? You can't just say,
You can't block it. That's the point. So
well, you can, but you'd have to have a clean night or something, but is that bad for the salamander?
Right.
What I'm trying to articulately to say is this needs to be comprehensively addressed, not, oh, let's, you know, you might be interested in the salamanders and natural heritage is interested in the Blanding's turtle, and everybody's concerned about the beautiful goose with the gosling sitting in
Yes,
the back.
that's a
So-
visual.
Right, but there's just all kinds of, there are different times of year restriction issues, which is determined.
But I guess my ultimate question again is, I don't understand, just because the road's been open forever, or just because, you know, it's easier to get, it
Yeah.
takes a few less minutes, I don't understand the critical nature of keeping that road open. I
And
guess that has not been expressed to me.
That's my point.
I
Well,
can
And it-
explain it.
the only, if someone wants to speak for that, they can later. But-
Can I speak to that?
If I may not-
Very finished, Rich.
Yeah, Rich, hold on 1 second if you would. So what I'm driving at is, I'm open to the concept of closure if there are two issues addressed. One is, what are the closures? Because it's not a closure. It sounds like there are multi-level nighttime, spring, midterm, summer, late fall, whatever it is. Let's figure out what those are. And then let's do a real evaluation of how can you, for those closures, what would it take to do a safe closure, right? To do it right. So that people, no motorcycle doesn't hit it or a car doesn't hit it, or you can't get around it. So those are my two issues of exactly what are we closing it for, when, and how do you close it the right way?
Rich, go ahead.
Okay, the real problem is that we continually shut down roads that provide access to West Newbury. We've shut down Georgetown Road, shut down Crane Neck Road, and now you're talking about shutting down Ash Street. When you're looking at mutual aid, say there's a fire in the center of town, how is mutual aid going to get from Newbury, from Georgetown? We've shut down the access, all of our accesses from the south of the town. We need Ash Street open because we shut down the two other roads that provided access. I think, as Barry had said, we need to look at this as an overall system, a comprehensive view of how do you access the town. And part of that is we need to reopen Georgetown Road. We need to reopen Crane Neck, and then we can start discussing limiting access through Ash Street. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we're not, this is just meant to be an initial discussion. We're not gonna take a lot, unless you have something new.
points, I just
Well, if it's something that hasn't been discussed already.
Well,
one thing, yeah, a little bit, you talk about Middle Street Bridge has been closed, I'm 31 Ash Street. But I've been here 18 years at my house on Ash Street, but I have to tell you, I was living in Newburyport prior to that, and I came to, on a call from Bob Lovejoy, because I was involved with, the Citizens for Environmental Balance over there. So we came over here, and it's gonna be at least 20 years ago, the DEP came, Dr. Kane, walked up and down Ash Street, and the woman from the DEP said something, she counted like 17 dead animals
between snakes and, turtles and everything on the road. And they really, this is 20 years now, over 20 years, they've been talking about closing this. Talking about closing it for nights and here and there, that to me, doing temporary closings is gonna be more detrimental to people getting into accidents. And Rich Baker talking about emergency vehicles.
I'm sorry, could you say that last sentence again, closing it? Telling,
Closing it temporarily, like just for a month here, or a month there, or a week here and a week there, I think that's worse than closing it permanently. Or at least close it for the summer, for the summer months. They could grade it and then.
you're saying
close
it's less safe to go open, close, open.
Yeah, I think it's safer to keep it closed the whole time for the summer or whatever period that we're dealing with the animals that are trying to cross out there. They could grade it for once and then close it off, and it's ready for emergency access if you had to open it for an emergency. And we have emergency service right here next to the police department. They could get someone out. It'd take a few minutes to move a couple boulders or something on each end. Or however you wanna do it, fencing. You still have the access going through, those other, what's the street that,
Moved into Brickett.
Brickett, I always forget that name. But that's only 3 minutes. We've dealt with the access over to Interjects Hospital has been shut down for how many years now? Middle Street Bridge. So this is the perfect time to close this. Cause now we're opening up another access. So that's it. I mean, I've seen so many trucks go across that, huge trucks full of manure going across that bridge. And you can see the waves hitting it, the water on each side. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you one thing, this issue here, these 2 nights that I have marked here, these were not just someone speeding. This is someone coming through our town and deliberately killing 3 ducks, 3 of these geese on one night. And this one was in the middle of the road. And this was on a Monday night. Both of them were Monday nights in 2 separate years though. On Monday nights that they killed that in between 6:30 and 8 o'clock at night. So, cause I went over there, I was CrossFit going, I saw the ducks going across. And then coming back after my meeting, that's when I saw them dead. So this took other pictures. Those were the closest ones or easiest ones to print out.
Yeah.
But I think it needs to be closed. I mean, for safety of the wildlife.
Just a couple of comments.
Sure.
Rich mentioned one thing. First of all, I agree with him on the traffic flow in and out of town, and that comes from the master plan we did in 1999. And they said you close down too many roads, you choke in traffic, and it's always gonna go somewhere else. So if you close Ash Street, it's gonna go Brickett and Moulton, so
Which has an abundance of geese.
that's what I'm getting at too. Every time I walk down the Moulton Street in the reservoir, they have geese up there. It's not as sensitive of a ecological area, and I appreciate that, but it doesn't stop these disrespectful people, and it would just push traffic into other people's neighborhoods. And to Rich's comment, I mentioned it when I first got on select board, Georgetown, in my opinion, should be open. A couple of years ago, it wouldn't have been a big deal. It's getting worse every year. And there was an awful lot of people who were so irritated about that. It's a great birding area, everything else. So if you keep shutting down the roads, like Rich said, Crane Next Street, you used to be able to drive right through, and that, you're never gonna open that again, Rich, that's underwater. But you've gotta be cognizant of it, you can't close all the roads. But if we can't get people to slow down on this one, I would be in favor in the future, because this is just insane what goes on out there, really is. And at a certain point, the state might close it too, to protect the habitat if we're not careful, so I think we have a responsibility to do something to slow the traffic down.
Yeah, so I would suggest as next steps, further conversation, with police chief and the highway superintendent. Do you know how long it's been since the last time it was rated? I'd be curious to see like the.
Roughly 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I mean, they can confirm that, but I remember when out there, it was like, I had a picture for the leader, it was perfectly smooth. It's been 3, maybe 4 weeks.
All right, so I think if we get more,
I don't know if this gentleman wants to say something.
So I'm in favor, I live out on 83,
Yeah.
between owning the property and living there as a kid, 40+ years on Ash Street. The signs that the town put up for the overweight vehicles, for the most part, ignore it. That's excessive traffic over the road anyways, like Chris said, as a deterrent, when that thing is not graded, is a plus. Like I said, I've lived out there 40 years, watching the gradual decrease in traffic when people go around it.
So you can see that.
Yes, not the fix that everybody wants, but in the start, if we just left that alone. Vehicles that go off the road down there on a regular occasion, sometimes, whether it's graded or not, it doesn't matter. I've watched it happen, like they grade it on a Friday. Saturday, there's 2 cars off it because it's smooth when going fast, they go right off the side. So the edge of that is like the slush on the highway. Once you get inside of it, it sucks you right in. And then, as mentioned, one of the fuel trucks, if that thing goes off, trying to hazmat that problem, get that out of there. You're gonna have to pump the truck just to lift it out. All the fuel, the saddle tanks, the damage done, irreversible at that point.
Yeah.
So, I'm just throwing my 2 cents in,
Thank you.
Appreciate
you
it.
know,
Yeah. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Can I, this is a question, has anyone ever considered putting like game cameras or anything like that down there? I mean, I've kind of looked around, I don't see like, I don't know where you would actually put them, but, and I don't know too much about game cameras, but.
GoPros on the turtles. Well, that's something I think we can ask the police chief and the highway department.
Cause we've had people dumping down there, we've had, you know, all sorts of, in contractors drive through there, and you have, I'm sorry, you have out-of-state plates constantly going over there. And they don't have trash pickup like we do, they have to pay for it separately, so, you know, I called the police one day, cause I saw them, a guy, he had bags in the back of his truck, he was parked in an empty spot. And he had picked him up and I drove by and I stopped, and I was watching him and he like put him back. But he was still there, and I called the police and I said, "I want to just check it out, I think he was meaning to throw his trash bags out into a storm." But I mean, it's not the first time, I know everyone has seen things like that, but we have to protect it, we have to protect our environment.
Okay. All right, well, those,
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you
You
very much.
have, online,
Catherine, something quick, we need to move on here.
Sure, I'll try to be quick. I agree with a lot with what Chris said. And I could tell you that when we moved here about 14 years ago, I didn't really know the streets that well, and I took that section of Ash Street. And at the time, it was an absolute rutted, gutted mess. And I had to go so slow that I decided I was never going to go through there again. And I haven't. So there is something to be said about letting the road get somewhat degraded, and it will probably deter people from going through naturally. But then I question, if we do need it for emergency access, what's going to happen to emergency vehicles trying to get through there? So I think gates with some reflective strips and some good signage may be something we want to dialogue about in the future. I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, the way the plan was written is that, you know, until it became a public safety hazard, the road would be allowed to degrade. So we'll revisit that with the police chief and highway superintendent and discuss further, I guess. Sound good?
Could that be an open meeting or something?
All these meetings are open, you know,
Oh, so that you'll ask them to
I
kind
don't know, I'll have to check in with them and see, you know,
Okay.
where they're at, and then, yeah, it'll be posted on the agenda if it's gonna be,
Okay.
discussion then.
Well, I hope we do it soon. I mean, we want to keep momentum.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
it's any day now that you go.
And just to note, the citizens petition that was signed by over 50 people, is actually for road closure during critical nesting and, migration season.
Yeah, March through June, May.
Yeah, not just slowing down, it's for closure.
No, I understood the petition, what it asked for, but I took it as prompting this discussion into other issues as well. I understand that's what the petition said, but it sort of, that's a starting point.
Yeah.
But You heard what I asked you.
Yeah,
Try
I
to get
feel
it
like-
sooner than later, that'd be great.
right, but I'm not sure we can meet this year's,
Oh, yeah, I agree with you on that.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you, everybody, appreciate your input. All right, moving on to item D, oh, I'm sorry, C, review of select board meeting structure and efficiencies. So this is just something we do very annually
Yeah.
after we start the year, are the ways to improve the meetings, make them more efficient. Chris, any thoughts?
Let Gary go first.
No, I think we got a whole list.
Before, just to jump in briefly before, the timeline that we had worked out a while back, I think the first thing is to just recirculate this and really emphasize it.
What is
This was the one that kind of pulled everything back a day in terms of when the agenda would be closed and.
Oh, okay,
So before you get into discussion, I wanted to kind of acknowledge, I think my office can do a better job pushing this out and holding to it. Because the idea, Barry, was to, I'll just read it, because, and if this continues to reflect the intent of this board, this would be kind of an immediate thing we can do, because it's already read up, but this would basically pull back to that if someone's requesting an agenda item for the following week's meeting, that the request would have to come in by 9 AM on Friday. Rebecca and I always send a draft agenda to the chair. It's sometimes it's Saturday, but typically it's like 6 or 7 days or 5 or 6 days ahead. So, but the idea would be by noon on Friday, we would send a draft to the chair for the following week. Then, over the weekend, the chair provides comments and edits by Monday morning. That already happens. And then, any materials for the packet would be due by noon on Monday. And by the close of business on Monday, the board would receive materials, packet, instead of it going out Tuesday night, it would go out late Monday. And then if the chair would always retain the discretion to add items, because the chair has every right to post the agenda right up until the 48-hour deadline. So you could do that, but if there were supplemental materials, those would go on Tuesday. It would basically pull everything back a day, so that as board members, you could expect to receive the bulk of your packet Monday night instead of Tuesday night, and then it would only be supplemental items on Tuesday. So that was kind of the idea, and it hasn't really worked out that way. But before you get into the discussion, I just wanted to preface by saying, if that continues to be the intent, we can just kind of recirculate this. I think we can put it on letterhead and really more formalize it.
so where is that breaking down now?
I think honestly, it's, when you look at a typical agenda, most of the items are not things that are coming from outside requests. They're coming from things that we need to deal with. And sometimes, if we get something that's a routine item, we'll just want to get it on the agenda because we know every agenda is busy. So we just try to keep the decks cleared. So, I think it's more just a workload issue. It's just me and Rebecca doing this, and we're dealing with hundreds of things, so. But I think the chair and my office are completely in sync. We're in touch like quite a bit, and by the time you see the agendas, it's often version 3 or 4 or 4 or 5. There's a lot of thought that goes into each agenda. So I think just pulling that back a day, and then you can run into a, yeah.
But when you said agenda items need to be in by 9 AM Friday, that's for the outside work.
That's the idea.
And so when you get that to the chair and you're looking, when do you get your list?
Oh, by the time we send her a draft agenda, it's got everything
All of
we
you can think of.
Yeah, sometimes
So
if there's like,
on Friday.
well, it's sometimes Saturday in practice.
Yeah. And do you have a problem with working on that over the weekends?
No, I mean, that's how we've done it.
Yeah, and then so by Monday, you've gotten your list and even whatever updates might come in over Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And then so that sounds reasonable to me to try to get the packet up. There's no prohibition on you adding items between Monday and Tuesday at 5:30, right, when you post it?
No, the only thing is, I fully respect that
Or
for
is it
board members,
tempting?
like receiving it on Monday
Yeah,
and spending time maybe Tuesday reading it, and then Tuesday night they get all these new materials. I can understand a board member being a little frustrated, like, wait a second, I just got the packet, I spent half the day reviewing it, and now there's more material.
Well, you are already sending, I mean, I've seen you sending supplemental materials as it is.
Right, right.
So that, what's different?
I guess if they're informational, that's one thing. If it's something the board's being asked to vote on, I think it's very, very important you have everything. But if it's like some of the things that went out yesterday, for
Yes.
instance, just came across the radar, so I sent them along to keep you brief, but those aren't things you're being asked to
For
vote on.
action items, Monday night, informational
Something like, I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I typically wait till Wednesday just because I want to review it once and have it complete, so.
Right.
To me, it's not an advantage to have it ready by Monday night.
Okay.
Chris, how do you feel?
I just need to know I'm getting it. Now, I thought we are gonna be getting it Monday, and then it was the Tuesday. Um, I dedicate Wednesday and Thursday to it with the assumption that I'll have it for those 2 days, and that can work, as long as I know what the plan is, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm not sure it needs to be locked in either. I mean, if you set a goal on Monday and, but no later than Tuesday at some time, then that's fine too.
Well, look at it, whatever it is, just do it.
I
I'm
think
not,
it should stay Tuesday, I mean, I think we haven't been able to hit Monday, so why?
Yeah.
why-
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
And the other thing is, I think, you know, when there's a Monday holiday, which happens, you know, if there's 6 or 8 of those a year, so it's not that infrequent. And also just Mondays tend to be like really, really busy days, just
Yeah,
in a lot of organizations, because, you know, but like just in terms of people walking in on Monday, there's just a lot of stuff that comes up, so.
so what you were just looking at was a proposal to change it.
The board had approved this a year ago. I think it was like last summer, that there was a decision to kind of try to pull everything back a day, and we just haven't really been able to pull that off.
Tuesday's fine for me, so far.
But I think especially, you know, with the transition coming and you know, have an interim, I think, you know, the problem is a lot of the stuff is, you know, it's such a dynamic organization, and even if the agenda, let's say we have the agenda largely set Monday, which we really do, there's always something new on Tuesday, or there's new information on something on the agenda, because a lot of these issues get worked on every single day, so there's new information, so it's that balance between, do you want information that by the time you get, like, if we send everything out Monday, by Thursday, there's been new information, and it's just a matter of how does a board keep up with things that are happening, you know, 7 days a week.
So we're,
I know.
You do, I mean,
No, but I don't, like, one of my beefs, and no disrespect.
yeah, no, I
The
understand,
day of the meeting, you can send as many emails as you want, I'm not looking at them.
yeah,
I am fighting to get through this.
yeah.
And process it in my head and have it sorted out, so all of a sudden, and I think we had 6 today, there's emails there, and if I have to look at those, then I have to go back and reassess everything else. So I'm focused, and this is what it's gonna be, I'll get to those tomorrow.
Yep.
It's just a process that I have to go through, so. I know there's certain things that are emergent, like the dock, we didn't know that till today, but some of these applications, if it's not ready for prime time, throw it aside. I don't wanna visit these things 2 or 3 times, which we do. And at a certain time, you have to just tell people, no, and they will get it, that if it's not prepared, I don't want you getting it on an agenda so that you can come in 3 days later with some more paperwork. Submit a complete packet, but don't, please. That's one of my
Yeah.
tirades.
I think because the agenda has to be posted by end of business on Tuesday, to me, that's a logical, you know, time for the governor to come out, because the agenda is not gonna change unless it's something unforeseen, so.
So I like getting a complete packet, I don't care if it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday morning even.
Yeah.
I just want it complete so that I don't have to start reshuffling papers
Right.
and playing.
Right.
And if somebody has got a problem with something, come back to the next meeting, we'll still be here.
well, I completely understand your point, but I would say that my reaction to the supplemental emails that Angus sends is I only look at them enough to know that there's something there. And if it's going to be relevant to our discussion, I'm gonna quiz him here at the meeting. Now, that's gonna prolong the meeting, so I take your point that if it's not ready for prime time, don't bring it in. But at the same time, if there's something we can resolve, that he's gotten new information and it's relevant, I'd like to know that at least it's there. I may not read it in full. And I may rely on you or the board of the town managers in future that. What's the significance of that to the item? But I think Tuesday night's plenty, Tuesday is plenty for getting the packet.
Yeah. I have just a perspective from being the clerk to the council for a while and also receiving packets and stuff too. Obviously.
Barry, you know she's a counselor,
Oh,
right?
I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been
It's had to come-
plenty for it.
Okay.
We had this issue when I was in Amesbury, we did packets, they were not as robust as they are here, but there would be supplemental information that would come in. I wound up switching it, because the majority of the counselors did not want paper packets anymore, we went to a Google Drive, it was my personal one. We wound up switching to Microsoft Edge, and they have Microsoft Office, and they have a Google Drive, which we could access here. Or a type of drive, and we would set up, we had a city council account. And then we would create a folder for each meeting. And we had individual folders inside, like agendas and minutes. Recommendations, first readings, second hearing, supplemental information. And all of that, all the stuff that would be in the packet was organized in the Google Drive. So as soon as the agenda was approved, I would email everyone. That's what we get now. We can email that the Teams link is live, all the documents can be found in there. And then if there's any supplemental information, the clerk just shoves it in the drive, drags and drops it into the folders. And then, she'll send an email for how updated information has been put in there. We don't have packets online, so it's a little bit different, but there could be other ways to share.
Yeah, I don't think the sharing is the issue. The issue is which version are you reviewing? Like if you're adding stuff.
the timing.
Oh, you put like revised, but if
I know,
it's
but-
just supplemental, like a PowerPoint or something, like it just gets thrown there.
All right, thanks.
But, on that same item DC, what was the meeting structure? Was there an issue being discussed about structure? of the
That was just
meeting?
kind of a generic.
Okay,
I can beef on that a little if you'd like
there
to.
was tirade on that?
I got a whole bunch of
All
them.
right, Chris, straight on.
Go ahead, man, tirade.
This meeting tonight was sort of emblematic of it. What people don't understand, this meeting is so that the three of us can sit here and Angus can hear us beef and complain and we can do some work. It's not a public forum for everybody to say what they want to say. Sometimes that's valuable. It's not a public hearing. This is the select board's meeting to conduct business. Same as when you're on Concom. You don't have to give people the right to talk.
Well, if it's a public hearing, you do.
This is not, this is a public meeting.
Right,
That's the big difference.
Concom does.
So that's the latitude of the chair. It's when is enough enough? Not tonight wasn't too bad, but we've had meetings that have probably been 45 minutes of, I use a nice word, gibberish. That we didn't need, that wouldn't change anybody's opinion, one iota. But people wanna talk and tell us what we're doing wrong. So,
Or right.
I haven't heard that yet.
Well,
They can go for 45 minutes, but yeah, I'd be impressed. But, so that is the problem.
Yeah,
well,
we've addressed it at a couple meetings when we knew there was gonna be a lot of public input, but it's difficult for people to take that.
no, and I will say that in lieu of us being contacted by people by email or phone call, if they have an opinion, if they're prepared to come in as a group or if they talk to each other and tell us all at the same time, I'm all in favor of that. So to this point, I lean probably in the other direction of I want people to feel comfortable coming in, even if it's a public meeting, but not a hearing and talking. As far as what they're saying and how long they get, that's within the discretion of the chair to say, thank you very much, or can you keep your comments to something new? I think that's what the chair's job is. You can also tell that I'm not at all adverse to jumping in and cutting off Angus when I'm trying to get to a particular point, and so.
He did complain about that to us.
That's fine, and others will, and you will, and others will, but that's my methodology is if I think someone's going either off the particular item or longer, I might, you know, respectfully, hopefully, try to say, can I get back to this particular question? Would you take any offense to that?
No, whatsoever.
Even our conversations in person and online, you know, on phone have been like that. Angus has so much information. I'm trying to mine the, you know, the ore and everything. Right? I want the gold and platinum, the iron and whatever.
And sometimes elaborate unnecessary.
No, but you're trying to make sure that the person you're speaking with has as much information as you think matters. But my point is, I'll do the same thing with citizens, but I don't want to discourage them. And this is being recorded. I don't want to discourage them from coming in and thinking they're gonna say something, subject to knowing they're gonna be.
Yeah, so the tricky thing is, tonight is a relatively short agenda.
Yeah,
If we have, you know.
We've been here till 11:30 before,
no, I understand.
because
So-
people were happy to jibber jab for 45 minutes, that I would rather get home at 10:30.
Yeah, I hear.
So.
One
okay,
possible
so
solution.
Management of the.
No, and I defer to the chair's judgment on that, but I mean, I may push towards basically, well, like, I think that went very smoothly tonight because I even started out with, I don't need to hear you talk about the horribles of the squashing of animals, because we all get that, right? So we didn't need 30 people talking about, I saw a duck and I saw a goose. We got right to the point of closure and safety. I think that's the way.
So one solution potential that I would offer to that, Wendy has done open office hours. And we've had in the past a retreat. I'm gonna suggest if we did monthly or bi-monthly. Open select board, Saturday mornings, 8 o'clock to 9 in the morning. No votes, no agenda for us, but if residents wanna come in. And say, I'm concerned, you know, that discussion would have been perfect. We don't have to make any decisions, but we can hear their input and then come back with it later.
How would we post it?
That would be deliberate, that would be a violation of open
Yeah,
meeting.
What?
That would be a violation of open meeting.
The reason that we did just the select board chairs, because I'm not violating.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
Well, and also people, I don't think would be willing to talk to the entire board about some of the things that they.
Plus you can have a line out the door possibly, and how long are you gonna be there? I'd rather do it within the construct of our meeting.
I think it would be very helpful, to establish rules of procedure, like a document that you all adhere to, that is your rules, how your meeting is run, what you allow public comment for. For the most part, it is correct that public hearings are the only thing that is legally, required to have public input. And having residents speak after every single item can make the meetings a little bit longer. So if there are items that are not public hearings, you can schedule it so the 2 minutes for anything. If it's not a public hearing, you state it under the general public comment portion, and you create rules around that. And then, yeah, it can be handled
Yeah.
through rules of procedure and items like that, because there's also, none of the people gave their names, their addresses for the record, so we don't have to do the minutes, so it just got more standardized would be helpful.
Mhm.
All right. Chris, any other? You sure? I mean, now's the time to.
Good.
Sure, 2 minutes.
If I can offer very briefly,
Okay.
I really wanna say. Like, I think this meeting format is way better than it was 4 years ago, so I just. Like, if you look at some older
What
agendas,
happened 3 years ago? Oh, Chris got them.
no, Wendy got it.
Oh, when did?
No, I'm crediting Wendy here, this is,
Oh,
but I mean, Chris, it's been a team effort, but.
yeah.
You know, in the old days, the board agendas were just an undifferentiated list of stuff. I think this format, I think works well, you guys, you know, could reorder it or whatever, but I think it's nice because now, like, when people contact us. We're able to say clearly, look, it's not an action item, a vote won't be taken.
Yeah.
That's been really helpful, because there's a lot of very interesting stuff on the agenda, and it's really helpful to us, and I think to the public. To understand, okay, what's on the table for a vote and what's just an update and what's it, you know, I think this format is really a big improvement. Things can always get better, but just from the time I've been here, I think it's markedly better than it used to be, so.
Right.
I like the format.
The only thing that I wanted to just discuss briefly is the select board email. There's been some discussion about, you know, what should be shared and what constitutes deliberation. I mean, I think what I would like to do, and I think I've started doing it, is just forwarding any emails from residents that I think, you know, would be interested in. I mean, most of what comes in there is spam. There's not a lot of targeted stuff, but I would send it to you before I reply to the resident, because otherwise I think that's an open meeting law violation if I'm sending my response. I mean, is that correct, Angus?
Yeah,
Yeah. So or if you have other ways to manage it so that you were in the loop with correspondence that's sent to the select board email.
So right now, there's board email that you're monitoring, and other than, you know, Costco sending you a tool set, but with resident stuff, you're not sending that on?
No, but and recently I've just sent the emails from residents, like about the middle, people app or middle stream.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to, and we can't access that email, right? Just you.
I mean, I think we could all access it, but it's just then who's responding. I mean, the idea is to respond to resident concerns, like either point them in the right direction or.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're taking that on yourself, I'm sure trying to drive that, if you're doing that all by yourself. Yeah, you're okay, is it not overly burdensome
No,
to
it's
do that?
fine, but I do
Yeah.
feel like there's things that I'm aware of or that I'm talking about with Angus that the other board members are not, so I wanna try to.
Yeah, no, I
address that.
think my own opinion in response to that is if you think it's important enough, then it would become a discussion item, right? If you're handling it like, oh, you should go there or talk to Angus, whatever, then God bless you, right? So thank you for doing that. A, B, if it's something that you think needs discussion,
Or you should be aware of.
or where, yeah, well, that's where information, I presume that like correspondence or discussion, I mean, you would put it under the action, under the non-action items discussion, but however you wanna share that, that you think, hey, this is out there.
Chris, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I get frustrated by that too. And it's helpful to see the emails, I guess, but not knowing the responses is still part of the story.
Mhm.
And I've been in town and somebody will come to me and say, hey, do you know about this and this? I had no idea. It's because an email had gone to you, so it makes you feel like an idiot out there. So you're gonna,
Oh, I'm used to that. No, I mean, if someone came up to me and said, did you hear about this? I'll say, no, but I'll look into it. I mean, I don't have a problem.
yeah, but the fact that other people already know about these topics and subjects,
Other
and
people.
we don't,
Yeah,
it's just
But it has
very,
to
very
be-
frustrating.
but we're relying on the chair's judgment of this is something that either has not prime time yet for discussion among us, or it's been sent
But
somewhere
I think
else.
their assumption is it goes to select board of West Newbury. They think we're all getting it. We're not. So. You know, why haven't they heard back? I don't know.
Well, to follow through, my response to them now will be hearing this and I'm learning as I go here is, you know, our setup is the chair's triaging things as to what she believes is something that should be discussed by the board or should otherwise be handled otherwise. I mean, we can't have 95 items on the discussion agenda, so that's your prerogative. Unless I have comfort that Wendy's gonna decide what sort of goes in the box of, I think the other board members should know about this and we should discuss it. In a parallel universe or different select board, there might be a chair where I said, I don't want that person making that judgment. As,
Well, I think I'm just gonna err on the side of caution and just forward anything from a resident that is
Chris.
substantive to both of you.
No.
If you don't wanna read it, don't read it,
yeah,
but,
can that go into a separate place instead of just the emails? I mean, is it gonna go to our .org email or can it go into a bot, like to Amanda's point, in some kind of a folder that we can go look at? Hey, there are 7 emails in here that I just responded, that I'm,
why would that be better than just getting, you know?
cause it's one email that I can go to a folder instead of 7 emails.
there is a way through Outlook to set up a shared, like a group, inbox. You know, I could look into that. It's not something you know, really learned how to do. I feel like it's something that could be a big improvement at a staff management level, because, you know, you take I'll take one example, invasive management. Every single conversation I'm having, I'm involving Butch, I'm involving Dan, I'm involving Paul, I'm involving Jen Garrett.
Right.
So like, that just, it's this multiplier effect of emails, and I have this sense that Microsoft Outlook, these shared inboxes, is probably a way to just have that go to a single inbox that all those individuals have access to.
Right.
And to cut down on the amount of like duplication, or ricochet, so I'm actually actively working on that right now. I met with Caitlin and we talked to Jake earlier this week on that very issue, because we're just looking for little efficiencies. So I can share what I learned, because that might be something that could be loaded onto each of your laptops. That way you can log in and see it. I would reiterate, kind of the caution that Wendy, I think, alluded to a few minutes ago, which is the minute one of you is expressing a response,
Sorry.
that becomes online deliberation. So that's where I think she's appropriately cautious about not sharing her response.
I agree.
But in terms of the incoming email, that's just public record that, so if there's a more efficient way to share that without multiplying emails because they're getting forward 17 times, I'll share what I learned on that.
All right,
Yeah, that would be, I wouldn't mind being able to go somewhere to see them all as opposed to getting separate.
Okay.
Thanks, yeah.
all right, anything else on meetings?
No.
All right. Select board policies, that's another thing we talk about annually, trying to go through, there's a lot of policies, some of them need to be updated. So I think what maybe would make sense is for us to each go through and just mark from the table of contents, ones that, you know, we think should be updated or.
That was the one that had like, there's a policy from 1998, there's another one, yeah, so I know I have that document, it's not.
It's linked from here, but I went ahead and just linked it to the website. No, I didn't post it because it's up.
Got it.
And the web's really slow, but it's that link will take you to where it's posted on the bylaws and policies on the town website. I know at a staff level, we have a number of things that we think are stale or,
Yeah.
you know, should be either repealed or rescinded, and there wasn't gonna be time to pull that together for tonight's meeting, but I think if this is on, say, you know, the next meeting, we can certainly put our thoughts into the mix and with yours and just try to tighten these up.
So, but getting back to priorities, this is something that we want your staff time to be working on.
Well, so Rebecca's already done some red lines. I haven't looked at them,
Okay,
but I think, you know, she could just send that along and, yeah, it's not something I have a lot of time to put toward.
Well, it would be helpful to see what someone else, like Rebecca, has already done, and we can pile on with. I've already with you longer, I'd be happy to definitely wait through that.
okay.
Yeah.
2 jobs would be better.
There you go. Oh, no, I also, and that's for all of our discussions, I don't profess to have a priority order, but I think we should get rid of.
Well,
But I'll be the first to pile on to Rebecca's,
okay.
and then how can we pass that around? Is that?
No, but what you can do is send it to a staff person who can then collate.
Okay,
Because at that point, like Rebecca or me or Amanda, we're not subject to open meeting law.
Right.
So we receive input from each of you and then collate it and then put it into the packet.
so I'll go first.
Okay.
Is that okay with you first?
All right, so Brick Hill Terrace, there was a trailhead sign. And I had asked it not be reinstalled because of the whole Brick Hill Terrace plowing issue. But this is probably too much to get into tonight. Did you follow that whole thing?
No.
Al? Okay. So the open space committee wants to put the sign back up. Let me see if I can explain this in a nutshell. So the residents of Break Hill Terrace want the town to own and maintain that road. And part of their argument was that it's a town trailhead and the town accesses town property from there. And we're not agreeing with that, so I just felt putting a trailhead sign right on the road is, you know, not good for.
So it's a private way.
No, it's a town road.
It's a town road, but
No,
it's
it's
a
town property
private,
on the
right.
left side.
But it abuts public lands, but the road has never been accepted as.
right, it's a private way.
Correct.
Yeah, so the sign issue is the sign for the road or for the trailhead?
For the trail.
And just so I'm clear, there was a sign that was taken out by a plow
Yeah, there was a sign that had broken.
and
They wanted to put it back as part of the Drake Hill signage project, and I said, let's hold off on that, we don't want to, like, make an issue out of this, so.
why not?
Because if we're saying that the town should not have to maintain this road, putting a sign there that welcomes people to park on the road and enter town property.
Oh, park on.
It doesn't want them to park on the road.
Well, but it's a visible,
Is there parking next to the trailhead?
No.
No.
just on the private way.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's.
That issue started almost 2 years ago,
I know,
and they said people park it. I've been by that road 150 times in that time frame. I've never seen a car parked on Break Hill Terrace. For that trail, it has been for the construction site up the street, but none have parked.
So theoretically, someone would drop someone off, or they bike in or walk in to go into that trailhead?
They walk in.
Yeah. Where would people park otherwise if not on high school? And
it does not seem to be a top priority, but I was asked to bring this to the board, so I'm doing that.
It's not a property that you can access without going on Break Hill. I put the sign in. It's.
I mean, what was it? What was the?
4x4,
Yeah.
the map, and
Otherwise, how would people, it should have trailhead sign, right? You could put a no parking sign there with it.
Residents of Break Hill Terrace have every right to do that.
No, no trailhead parking.
Well, no, they could say private road, no parking too. And if I was the resident there, I would.
Understood, but we're joining with them and saying no parking for the trailer. That's the way to kumbaya with them. If they don't want the sign because they think it's gonna induce parking, then maybe we can add a no trailhead parking allowed. So that we're agreeing with them on that. Compromise?
I don't know, what do you think, Angus?
Well, I think what they want is for the town to.
Oh, of course.
Right, so that's.
But that's
and
a
it-
warrant
it-
on the town meeting article.
Yeah,
One town meeting warrant.
right, and pursuant to the process for a street acceptance, which requires a street acceptance plan and.
Yeah,
And the.
they can pursue that.
Up to a certain standard,
Told they could, but they chose they didn't.
right?
Yeah, right, so they have to be reminded that the town's not gonna propose to do that necessarily.
I think they know that.
Yeah,
Well, and if they do, they can be upset about the town not having voted to make it a public way. But they can't stop the town from putting a trailhead sign up. Stop the town from doing it. We have a trail with a trailhead, but I think
I think it's,
What
I
do you
think,
think of
I think
my
it's more of a
idea?
perception issue,
Yeah.
like if the town is implicitly inviting
to
people.
walk there.
Right, that it's, I think it becomes a perception issue of with the neighbors saying, you're saying it's not public, but you're
Invite,
inviting
well,
the public to cross the
is the
road.
public's allowed to walk on the private way.
Unless it's posted,
You technically don't have to walk on the private way to get to the land. You can walk right on the side, the town owns it. So if the town's gonna buy land and have trails, you should be able to use it.
Yeah,
This is no different than the Coffin Street property where it goes up into the hill. There is no parking there. I walk through there once a week because I don't have to park. And people can.
so there's room to walk to the side of the public way,
Yeah.
to the private way to get to the trailhead. Is that like overgrown or is it?
yes,
Yeah, so can you
Not
really do
really.
it? So that's more the issue is that. There's a trailhead on a private way that there's no real method of getting access by foot or otherwise.
alright, so do you wanna bring this back for a vote, or?
How did it come back to you as far as?
The open space committee wants to put the sign up.
They wanna put it up.
I asked them to hold off, because this was all,
Have they spoken with the folks on Break
no,
Hill Terrace?
no, they just wanna do it, cause it's.
maybe we should ask them to go speak with those people about putting up the sign.
That's a good idea.
Why not?
Because they're not speaking, I mean, if we wanna do that, then we should decide as a select board, it's not really up to the open space committee to negotiate with the owners.
Oh. Okay,
That's a fine word too, it's not negotiating with the owners, it's the town's property.
well, no, but if we, so if
Don't
we,
be buried, go talk, I mean,
yeah, but if we put a trailhead sign up, Chris. And they put a private way, no trespassing sign at the end of Brakefield Terrace. Then someone walking to the public trailhead is trespassing. And you have that.
I'd have to bring up the map, you can get in there without going on Break Hill Terrace, I'm gonna say.
Well, when I asked if it was overgrown and actually accessible, Wendy shook her head no.
You don't have access to it.
So I think we should,
Go
with
back
open
to
space,
Steve
there's
first.
a way for people to get to the trailhead. Without being on the public and the private way. Then I would suggest a compromise would be to put the trailhead sign up so they know where it is. And with a concession of no vehicle parking allowed. To at least accommodate the recognition that it's not there for parking, there's no parking allowed.
okay, that's good feedback.
So we're talking trailhead signs, what about Sawmill Brook? It was one there that's been removed too.
I think that was removed because the map showed a trail that had not been formally approved.
Yeah.
Right, that was a year ago, they could say not an approved trail, and put it back up, right? Is that the town did that, or?
No, they put it, that kind of came up with the Concom and they put a trail in where there was no trail.
Oh,
No,
it's
they
private
put a-
property.
No, they put a line for a trail that had not, was on town property that wasn't approved.
Right,
So can't that just be corrected and the sign
Yeah.
go back up? I mean, it's been, I don't know whose responsibility that is.
so
It's,
none of the trails have been approved, so, right,
right,
yeah, so, I mean, that's the issue.
that, yeah,
And it's
that's,
far down on our work plan, so nothing's happened on it.
What do you mean none of the trails have been approved?
In Sawmill Brook. That was the first property that we purchased after the trail management checklist went in and they're supposed to go before Concom and get
Right.
trails approved.
And it's been before the Concom, at least talking about bridging around the brook itself and all that, so it's pending, but it hasn't been finalized. But I do think Greenbelt's showing a lot of the trails in there.
On their website?
On a piece of paper. If there was a map, that. Or when the riding and driving came in for one of their things, they had a bunch of
They're
arrows.
old.
Okay.
Alright. So the last item is,
Cedars.
yeah, so I was not aware, I don't know, were you aware of this, any of this? That-
no,
Yeah, so apparently before every bandstand concert, there's mosquito spraying. And so Paul asked me about it and said, I mean, if you do that at a school, you have to notify, it's like a public notification, and he said, do we need to notify here? And he was told we do not, but it just made me think, should we be spraying every week just so we go to the bandstand? And they were talking about spraying in Mill Pond before the movie, and I just feel like this is something that should be discussed and agreed on. Or have some process. for
And
it.
who's doing this, who would do the spraying?
The
Mosquito
northeast,
control.
yeah,
Is there signage or posting that's required?
no, apparently not,
Not for
unless
mosquito
it's a
control,
school,
huh?
yeah.
Huh.
That's what Paul told me, they
Yeah.
told him, so,
I mean, does it work too? I mean, I've heard,
I don't know, I'm, I guess against just spraying for the sake of spraying. you
right,
know, I-
unless it works.
Yeah, and there's vernal pools back there
Yeah.
and, you know, so I didn't know whether Concom should be involved, so just wanted to share that with you and see if we want to develop a process or even what the thought is.
Oh, I do think we need a process to approve it rather than just having it keep happening.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, so the owner of the property should approve it. Like if it's a Concom property, then they should approve it.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, so Mill Pond here would be the board.
yeah.
Chris, any thoughts?
I agree, it'd be good to have some.
I'd like to get more information about what, you know, what are they spraying? Will it act, does it work? Do they know, is there any way, any metric for measuring the success? And what kind of posting can you do, even if it's not net required?
So Paul sent me an example of
Yeah.
posting, so they're doing suspend polysome and Zeneflex, it's an adulticide. And the other one is a barrier formulation. So there's a standard written notification, but where would we put it? Would we send it to all residents or it's just,
Yeah, maybe on the town website, right?
What's the geographic extent with regard, for instance, to the bandstands?
just the woods?
Okay, so that would be, I believe, what, housing authority property and town property and park and rec property, is that all
I would think so.
encompassed? Okay,
So there's multiple.
and
parts.
private properties.
Yeah.
No, I think it's worth creating a process and getting more information and getting it out there. We don't know. You gotta imagine people that would wanna know, be concerned, as opposed to finding out it was being done.
I think that was Paul's.
Yeah.
It's been done like for several
I think
years.
it's good for him to raise.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll circle back with him and see if he has any recommendations on a process. So right now, we're thinking land ownership group or care custodial entity.
Yeah. Well, with some coordinate, sort of communication of being consistent, right?
Any questions on the correspondence? This FY 26 year-end procedures memo, that's all, that's the thing. Any future agenda items? Are we on this discussion ready? Okay,
Just, I do have, but you and I can look at all this stuff, so I'm just. But I can tell you what's like previewed for
Okay.
2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks from now. We do expect to have the employee compensation schedule and wage range schedule, basically that's just loading the. Actual wages that were the basis of the FY 27 budget. Obviously, reappointments will be a big one 2 weeks from tonight. The animal control IMA that does expire at the end of June. We're in active dialogue with the city. We have a form of agreement that everyone's at a staff level agreed to, and the number is within what we budgeted. So I think that's gonna be a routine thing, but we want to get that done. And that's for proposal 1 year. We did get just yesterday the actuarial report from the
oh, good.
retiree study, so I'll put that in the packet. We have a couple of special events. There's some other things too, but those are some of the ones I have on my radar.
Okay. All right, and we go into executive session for MGL chapter 30A, section 21A, 2, 3, and 7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the board recessing to executive session, and we'll reconvene in open session for the sole purpose of adjournment. Good night.